Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. This is episode 489, recorded on Sunday, July 5th, 2026.
Happy birthday, America. I'm Joe.
Fumbling with the new tools. I'm Bill.
Failing with AI, I'm Majid.
Saying goodbye to Fire TV. I'm Jim.
So, first up in the news, PlayStation and Microsoft go fully digital. Amazon blames piracy, Brave goes containerized, and Image has big upgrades. Then in our wanderings, Joe does more with the mini rack and plans ahead. Jim drops Fire TV like a hot potato. I managed to balk my computer again. And Bill just kind of sits there in a bandana. Check this out. Miner lets you talk instead of type in Ubuntu. Please remember, if you want to follow along with our discussions, the full show notes for this episode are linked in the show's description. Take it away, Joe.
Well, I brought two articles, and we had said previously that we were only going to do one a piece, but these are so related, and I want the discussion on it. So the first one is PlayStation is going fully digital for the PS6. And the second one is Microsoft Next Gen Xbox could be digital only with new disc to digital support. Now, a lot of talk around these articles and in these articles about the PS6 specifically is, well, it destroys the entire secondary market. So there's no reselling, there's no buying used games, there's no nothing like that. And I do understand how that's an issue. And also with like the Xbox, the disc to digital covers some of the problems that you're going to have with the PS6 in parents wanting to be able to give their kids something physical for a birthday or Christmas or things like that. But it's still, there's this whole thing where if you turn around and resell the disc, then it automatically turns off things on yours. And I want to point out something that's recently happened with, what was it, Sony? Where you purchased movies and then they lost the licensing. And those purchased movies that you had are just gone because Sony can no longer have them on their servers. So what's to stop PlayStation from doing the exact same thing? I should have included a third article, though, because they're bringing down the PS3 network along with the PS Vita network.
Yeah. So there is, there's, as Joe's saying, there's been a lot of talk about this all across the tech press. And there's been a lot of taking the mick out of Sony for, by showing them, because they used to have adverts, didn't they? I think when the PS4 came out, that we will always be digital. Sorry, not always. We will always have physical discs, and poking fun at Xbox, because I think that was the first Xbox generation where you could get a SKU which didn't have a physical, any kind of physical media, CD, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. And so it's kind of like, well, yeah, that didn't age very well, did it? Now, I've been listening to, as I'm sure everybody else has, listened to quite a lot of talk about this. The first is, from a business perspective, this makes a huge amount of sense.
Oh, absolutely.
From their perspective, because now they don't have to go through. I mean, I know that it's probably not that big of a cost, but it's still a cost to make a physical disc, and the selling and putting it in brick and mortar stores and all that sort of stuff.
And having complete control of the digital media prevents things like helps prevent things like piracy.
Exactly. Yeah. So all the stuff around piracy, there's that. And similarly, they don't want there may well be things that they do not want to support anymore for the 5 people that still use it. So as an example, I'm just saying, so there is you could say, because this is kind of links in with the PS3, PS Vita network shutting down. If you've got someone who really loves a particular game and they still want to be playing it, and they want to be playing multiplayer, even though it's been 15 years, they're having, because they've got this disk and they can access the servers and all that sort of stuff. That requires some maintenance and all that sort of stuff. So from a business perspective, this is this is a win-win for Sony and Microsoft, right? For everybody else, it's a lose-lose because, as you say, the second-hand market is completely gone. We are moving more and more to this idea that you do not own anything. Everything is just a license, right? And if the license goes, like the movies that go off Sony, or it's happened before with Amazon as well. You paid for a movie, that
Apple
movie doesn't
happened with
exist.
Apple and Apple Music.
Yeah, exactly. All of that sort of stuff. And it's just a terrible state of affairs. The Unfortunately, well, okay, there's a there is a good side way of looking at this and a pessimistic way of looking at this. The pessimistic way of looking at it is this is just the way that life is going to be from now on. We are helpless to do anything about it, mainly because of all the bloody normies, right? Who just kind of go, oh, is that the way it is? Is it all right?
Yeah.
I'll just do it that way because yeah, and they have no concept of what the world was like, as it were. Do you know what I mean? Because you've
This
got
is
all these.
definitely something that I wanted to bring up here because you see a lot of pushback right now. It's a lot of loud vocal people talking about it. But you saw the same thing with the Nintendo Switch 2
Mm.
when it came out. And it having that whole digital disc thing where you put it in and it downloads a copy and all the control that Nintendo has over the Switch 2. But you also saw the astronomical amount of sales that they had with the Switch
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
And you're going to see the exact. I'm thinking you're going to see the exact same
Yeah.
thing
Because
with
at
the
the
new
end of the
Xbox.
day, at the end of the day, companies want to make money, right? And if they can do things and people will be happy with it,
The
then
majority.
yeah, the majority of people are happy with it, then they will do it. With all the pushback that's coming, I don't know. Now you could argue again that the gaming community is a different beast to the normies who are playing Candy Crush on their iPhones or Super Mario on the Nintendo Switches. But I don't know
Well,
how big of a market that is, that if they were to leave and go somewhere else, I'm not sure where they would go. No, that's another point.
the
But
only place to go is PC.
yeah. So the two possible slightly maybe glass half full way of looking at it is this is going to be a shot in the arm for PC gaming, probably for Linux gaming specifically, I think. I mean, I suppose I didn't know if you'd mentioned it in the previous news episodes a couple of weeks ago, but the new Steam machine is out now or coming out. And it's expensive, but the reviews have generally been very good.
It keeps getting
And
pushed
it's
back.
expensive not because Valve have made it expensive; it's because of bloody AI and the Rampocalypse and everything has made it expensive. So had in a normal if we were in normal times, it would have been competitively priced. Is one thing. The other thing is that PS3s, I am told, aren't can be emulated. PS Vitas can be very easily emulated. So could even if you do lose the servers like the PS3, PS Vita stuff, could people still play the games because they're
Well,
emulated?
yes, you can definitely get all the PSP and PS Vita stuff emulated or ROMmed, as it were, because you're not emulating it if you're playing it on the Vita. The only thing you're really losing out on is buying games legally and being able to play with each other online.
Hmm.
So there is a ROM market out there. I'm sure that when Sony finds them, they will destroy them. But you're never going to get rid of all of them. A lot of people in the YouTube space are saying that if things go all digital, then piracy isn't illegal. If you don't own any of your data, then piracy isn't illegal. Blah, etc. But whatever, you can still go to jail for it. So
It obviously is.
be careful.
Well, I've got a question because from my perspective, it feels like it's been. Now, I'm not a gamer, So if I'm wrong about anything, let me know. But it feels like it's been all digital for some time. It almost feels like when you do go buy a disc, which like my kids, for example, they had the Xbox Series S, which is the one you were talking about
Yeah,
that did not take
yeah.
a disc
I
at
had one of
all.
them.
No disc drive whatsoever. They used that for a few years, and then they got an Xbox X, which does have the disk drive, but it has had almost no use whatsoever. So
Right.
they've been kind of used to this idea for some time. And when you do go buy a disc, you put the disc in, and to the best of my knowledge, I think some of them are still DVD based, and you get some data off that disc, but the vast majority, even when you buy a disc, the vast majority of the data is coming from a download.
Yeah,
At least the updates and everything else, the DLC, all that stuff, it's still coming from externally.
Yeah.
So yes,
yeah,
you're right there. But the main difference being is even if I don't, you know, turn my machine, turn the internet on, I should be able to play something with the disc.
Can you? Has that been a reality?
I don't know. I
I
haven't.
don't know because
I
it
don't do
just
yeah.
console gaming
Because I
anymore.
mean, didn't the Xbox have a big thing about it always has to be connected to the internet for anything to blooming load?
yeah,
Yeah,
because you
a
can't
lot of
even
things did. There was a lot of pushback on that, and you see it went nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing to kind of remember is the way the world has changed. You know, people. I mean, we are a minority in this, but we're a very small minority.
oh yeah.
Most people have got a Spotify subscription, have got a YouTube subscription, they've got a Netflix subscription. You know, everything's going subscription based. Xbox, with what's it called? Xbox Game Pass, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? They want you to just pay 10,
Monthly.
15 quid a month and play the games that are in that library. And that, they don't even want you to own any of your own stuff, really. And you can kind of tell that by, I mean, yes, Game Pass is what, 15 £10 15. You go to buy Red Dead Redemption, it's 70 quid. I mean, unless you are a hardcore gamer, it doesn't make economic sense to do that, does it?
No,
Yeah.
and you're right. I think it's somewhat indicative that we are of an older generation where we actually believe in owning things and
Yeah.
not having someone else be able to just
But you
flip a
know what?
switch
We
and take it
never
away from us.
did. We never did. It's always been this concept of they've just never had a mechanism for enforcing it like
Right,
they do
because
now.
even if you had the physical media, you didn't technically own the physical media. It was
Correct.
licensed to you, blah, et cetera, because you couldn't turn around and then copy it and sell it, et cetera, et cetera. I get that too. But there are some companies that are trying to do things about that. Like I don't own any of the discs for any of the games that I play because I get them all from Steam. But Steam has a mechanism in place that if they're ever going to completely get rid of their servers, they're going out of business. They have a plan in place so that you can download all of your games, the executables, and they will be playable on your system in the final format that they came out in as long as you can hold them on your system.
Okay, but that's really a kind of like that's a no stakes promise, because let's be honest, that's
It
not going to
is.
happen, is it?
It,
Steam, Valve is not going to completely dissipate to the extent that they have to get rid of their servers. They'll
true
get
enough,
bought by somebody,
but
they'll get this by somebody, there'll be this transfer will happen, that transfer will happen. I'll tell you, if Steam, if you really want to get into this, right? If someone passes away, right, and
mhm,
they've bought all these games and they're on their Steam library, they can't be transferred to the surviving people.
sure they can.
So I don't think you can.
Sure you can. I'll just give my kids my password.
Okay, if you do that, I mean, but if someone didn't, and there's like 500, 600 pounds worth of games on what on Steam, which
Right,
is
because if you
literally,
don't buy a game as a gift, then it has to stay with you, blah.
yeah. So it's actually a little bit. It is a bit depressing actually, because this is just the way the world is going, and at some point you think to yourself, is there any point even fighting it really? Because not enough people will fight it for anything to actually happen of any use. And the people that really don't like it will go to PC gaming, and the vast majority of the unwashed masses will just continue on.
But the people that go to PC gaming will probably be a lot like me and still get all their crap digitally anyway.
I was going to say they're going to suffer the exact same situation on PC.
But they're
gaming.
less locked into specific environments, because if I get a PlayStation, then I'm completely dependent on, Sony. If I get an Xbox, then I'm completely dependent on Microsoft. If I get a PC and I do it my way, I can go to these different companies. I can go to Amazon. I can go to Steam. There's a couple of others whose names escape me right this second, but there are other game companies that I can go directly to get the games from. I'm
If
not
you're willing to do
locked in
cloud
the
gaming, you
ecosystem.
can do just about all of them. You can
Well, yeah,
do-
exactly. And that's the other thing, isn't it? If you're going to go cloud gaming, which is, again, I think they'd like you. They'd love you to do cloud gaming, because you don't even
Oh, yeah.
have anything then.
Because it's
You know,
not even
these
your
network-
hardware at that point.
Yeah.
I almost the inner conspiracist in me thinks that the prices are shooting up on home PC stuff specifically so that they can do something like that. Yes, I'm paranoid, but doesn't
you
mean
might
just
not
because
be
you're
wrong.
paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Kurt Cobain said, it's damn true.
Yeah.
Just because you're nuts doesn't make you wrong.
If you can't buy home computer stuff other than the locked and sealed things that companies would provide you to do cloud gaming, and then they really do control everything. But yeah,
It's a very disturbing trend, and I will say that as far as I'm concerned, now, mind you, I haven't been a gamer in a very, very long time as far as video games, but my philosophy, I don't care what the average person does. I never aspired to be average. All right. My philosophy at this point in my life for the last several years, I will never spend a nickel on a book, a movie, television, a video game, nothing. I can get all my books and movies from the library. I can, if I want to play video games, if I ever have that need to want to play a video game, I'll play an abandonware game or an old game. Everything's available, and I'm not talking. You don't have to resort to piracy if you don't want to. Like I said, the library's there. There's a lot of stuff that you can get for free. I'm just not on. I'm not a rat spinning on the wheel where I'm giving these people my money. With one or two, few exceptions for some streaming services that provide me a lot of value with live sports or something. Other than that, everything else pre-recorded, content, books, games, forget it. I'm not ever paying again. I will never go to a movie theater again. I'll never buy anything like that. So I'm out. So everything's available. There's enough legal ways to do it. If you're a young person and you have to play the brand new game with your friends, knock yourself out. I had in television when we were a kid. My mom and dad bought the cartridges. So I get it. If you're young and you're in go ahead. Then you got to spend your $80 and you're stuck. But I'm out. So yeah. And
Dear
by the way,
the television was a game console of yore.
It was an awesome. And by the way, I just want to say
that was the rich kids one, actually.
Yeah, Atari was the common one.
Yeah, the common one. Yeah, we were the common ones.
Yeah,
with the
most
Atari.
People
that's
had.
what the poor folk had.
In television was like the specialty, early '80s game console, and
it was
by the way,
Neo Geo of the early '80s.
Yeah, it had improved, much better graphics than Atari. It had a lot of games that were especially the sports games that were more sophisticated than what the Atari 2600 had.
Of course,
at the time.
now I'm showing my age because I'm sure like a third of our listeners are like Neo Geo.
What's up? That type of PlayStation.
Could you even get a Neo Geo something to play that at home, or was that? I thought that was just.
You had to get a console system, but you had to be.
You had to import it from Japan. Oh. It was a ball ache to get.
because I've noticed a lot of the retro-ish kind of arcade games that you see at some of the restaurants are Neo Geo.
They were, and because of the fact that it was so expensive and so difficult to get them, they did have a bit of a cult following because it wasn't easy to play a Neo Geo game, PC Engine, all these kind of consoles that were Japan only.
They look like knockoffs of Nintendo games. Is what they.
It was specifically arcade games that were ported to be able to be played at home. Was the Neo Geo? That was the
Okay.
whole point of it. And then it did have some of its own games.
Oh,
But yeah, it's actually a really interesting device, and some of the best fighting games are on the Neo Geo if you want to play things at home.
by the way, Leo's doing his day drinking in the comments again.
Leo, I'm telling you, is getting ready for the match because I don't know if you guys know, there's a slightly important football match of Mexico versus England in a couple of hours' time. We've already been chatting about it.
Oh my! Talk about a language gap.
Hey,
Can't
quick
even go-
anecdote before we move
Yawn.
on, since I mentioned in television. In 1982, there was something that was way ahead of its time that we had at our house in Orange County, New York. It was called Play Cable. It was like Steam, but the early 80s edition. You could sign up. It might have been like $7 a month or something like that. And you can get a rotating selection of Intellivision games downloaded over the phone wires to a local cartridge that was in your television console. And you couldn't play like player to player over the internet. It wasn't that,
Hey, that
that
sounds like rich
sophisticated.
folk stuff right there.
Yeah, I was
No,
going to say that would be
that's-
7 packs of cigarettes.
like I said, it
for
was
my
$7
money.
a month. You didn't have to be rich to afford it, but I recently read a book about the history of Intellivision.
You just had to live in that really rich area to have it available.
There were-
Orange County, New York.
There were only 20 cable systems in the whole country that had it available, and only 5,000 customers, and we were one of them. We got our money's worth out of it. Let me tell you, my brother and I used to have some marathon sessions of biplanes.
I'd never heard of that back then. I don't.
Yeah, it was way ahead of its time, and it only lasted about 2 years, and then Intellivision kind of went by the
Yep.
wayside. And yeah, we used to put some stakes on it. Like, imagine you were playing a game 3 out of 5, and whoever lost had to mow the lawn that week, in the heat of the summer. So yeah, that made for some good competition.
Wow.
Anyways,
Anyway,
I did know that this conversation was going to be a long one, and I really wanted to discuss it. It was either me picking this or me picking the whole AI RAM cost situation that was an excuse for all these different RAM companies to push up the prices.
This is an
Yes.
easy topic to pretend like you know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Excuse me,
well-
what are you on about? I know everything about this. God's sake. Flipping
We
heck.
should move on.
Yeah.
But yes,
But,
let's
yes,
move on because it's been a good conversation, but it's been long.
Yeah. And it does actually flow in quite well into what Jim wants to talk about.
Am I next?
Yeah.
You
It's right
sure?
there in the notes, Jim.
Yeah.
All right. I don't remember it being in that order. Okay. Yes. Amazon blames piracy apps with malware for killing new Fire Stick downloading. I've talked about being on using Fire TV for a very long time, and I'm going to have a lot more to say about this in my wanderings. But from this article on /.org, Amazon is specifically acknowledging what we all suspected with their recent moves, that, ending sideloading is one of the goals of their move to their new Fire TV Vega operating system on the Fire TV. So, they were tired of people, like me, basically using the Fire Sticks the way we wanted to, and downloading or sideloading all these different apps that allowed us to do things other than, consume the fire hose of Amazon content that you either subscribe to or purchase through them. So I just thought that was interesting that they have actually said that part out loud.
I mean, I thought they already had. I mean, I remember us
They're
talking
full
about
of
this.
shit.
No, I mean, I
Because
remember us having this
what
conversation
value
about
are
a couple
they
of months ago.
getting? how much more value are they getting from putting Netflix and Prime, or I mean Netflix and Hulu on there than
Oh, it's
putting Jellyfin
oh,
and Cody?
it's entirely bollocks. It's, of course, it's bollocks,
Yeah, I
right?
Do you
mean,
have to
What?
sideload? Hold on. Do you have to sideload Jellyfin or
you can't do
Plex?
it at all on the new ones. You know what I did the other day? I've got one of these new ones that
Yeah, I knew,
Jim's
because you bought,
talking
because we
about.
had this conversation
I
on
tried to
OTC.
Well,
I
no, I'm
tried to
just
tell him not to
asking.
buy it.
I'm just asking because like Roku, I don't have to sideload anything. It's right in their app
Well,
store. I can
Roku
just
doesn't give two shits about what you're watching on it. They just want you
True
using
enough.
their hardware. And from Amazon's point of view, anybody the 3 or 4 out of every 10,000 people that are going through the trouble. Oh my God, I'd like to see the numbers of people that are going through all the trouble to sideload Kodi and Jellyfin. Now, you never had to sideload Jellyfin. All of my regular Fire devices upstairs, Jellyfin is in the App Store. Kodi is not, but
Right.
Kodi suffered a lot of, there was some pretty dodgy plugins for a while, and it's not that I'm saying
I
I
blame the
understand
EU
where they're
on that
coming from,
one.
huh?
I blame the EU on that one and
Yeah.
suing Kodi, even though it was the extensions and not Kodi
Mm.
itself that was the issue.
So I've been watching on this new one, because I keep hearing, well, they're probably going to put Jellyfin on it. They were blaming the Jellyfin developers for not making a version because it's going to be different because it's Linux based now, right? It's not Android anymore. Well, now I'm hearing that they're not going to allow it at all because of this pirating nonsense. But you know what it said? I asked the little stupid AI thing on there if I was ever going to be able to get Jellyfin on this thing, and they said no, but you can use the Silk browser to go to your Jellyfin address. And I tried that, and it worked perfectly fine. So not only is it stupid, it's hypocritical. Because you using the Silk browser to go to your Jellyfin and watch it while it works, it's kind of a ball ache because
Right.
it's not like on your desktop where you could, at least on here I could create like a web app or something. On there I literally have to go through the process of opening the app and then going to the shortcut or whatever, but it is something that is possible. They're not blocking it from that point of view. They're just not going to support, Jellyfin. But why? Jellyfin does not suffer the same stigma that Kodi does. I don't think it does. You don't
No, I
have
mean,
that.
I don't think enough people know what Jellyfin is, frankly.
Yeah, well,
I
I mean,
mean,
you've got to have. There's both the server and the client thing going on with Jellyfin,
yeah, I
whereas
mean,
with
I think as I said, I remember about 6 months ago when they first released this Vega OS version, and I remember saying, "Oh, it's got Linux on it. There must be something I can do with it." And so you bought it, and we had the whole conversation about how it's so incredibly locked down and whatever. Now, the question that I want to, and this is why, by the way, I mean, I'll get to it in my wanderings as well. But when I was on last time, a good couple of months ago, one of the things I was looking at was getting an Amazon Fire Stick before they all turned into this Vega OS shit, and get one of the old Android ones while they were still around, which I did, by the way, because I think the way that Amazon looked at this was they basically made a mini computer, right? ARM-based mini computer, called the Fire Stick, and what a surprise, people started doing what they wanted with it because it was basically a mini computer. And then they just thought, oh, this is money we're losing because they're now accessing this through this service, or they're downloading this from here or whatever. We're losing money, and so therefore we are now going to move over to this lockdown thing where the only way that they can watch anything or do anything is through us, and we are the gatekeepers. And it's exactly the same situation as the whole thing about going digital only, with none,
I think they're going
getting
to
rid of the disc.
lose. They're
I
going to
don't
lose
think.
people.
Nah,
They're
they're
going to.
not.
Well, they've lost
Nah.
Jim.
That's
They've lost
foreshadowing.
Jim. They're eventually going to lose me because eventually my devices upstairs are not going to work anymore, and I'm not going to use these things. This thing is this thing's hooked up to my KVM down here so that I can bring it up on this monitor and look and see. It's all academic. I'm not using it to consume content at all. So the people, I think they're going to
The
lose.
unwashed masses will still buy it
Well,
because they just want to be able to watch Netflix or Prime Video or BBC iPlayer or whatever it might be.
they're welcome to it.
Yeah, exactly. So we will move over to something else. Most likely, what we will move over to is actually kind of what Jim I think said last time about his HTPC. You know, you basically having, well, unfortunately now because of the RAM apocalypse and the bloody SSD prices and everything like that, even those are getting bloody expensive. But you know, having a mini PC and being able to do what you want with it, that's probably where we will end up.
I mean, if you're going to use Netflix and Hulu, though, you're going to need something, unless you want to make. I suppose you could make web apps or something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can still watch all these things through a browser.
Yeah.
You know, there are some issues around. I mean, Prime Video on Windows, as an example, doesn't exist as an app. It's just a web wrapper. It's just a web app. You know, Disney is the same. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure.
I
how
would
Netflix
argue all
works.
of these apps are really, with maybe a little JavaScript on top to make them flashy when you open them up. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do sometimes feel like I'm just turning into the old man shouting at the clouds. But I mean, this is just the way it's going, unfortunately.
I like being that old man though, because I never want to become the person that doesn't care, that just takes it on the face however they want to give it to me. You know, I just know.
Oh, don't pretend like it's your first time.
No, it's not. It was just the hand movements.
If you know, you know.
Well, you won't believe how many people look at me like I'm completely insane when I start talking.
Oh yeah, no,
about,
I know.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Plex
forget about
server
how
and
many
the
people. How many
jellyfin.
people in my house look at me like I'm completely insane when
You're
I kind of
storing
say,
all this on
"Will
your
you
own
download?"
computer? You can't just stream it from elsewhere? It's like, well, maybe.
They
Oh,
think I'm
man.
nuts upstairs, but they would be bollocksed without that jellyfin, because that's the vast
That is a
majority
very
of it.
good use of that word. I am impressed. Color me impressed, William.
Yeah, well, I
I'm
got
very
enough of you
impressed.
people in my life that I know
You
how to.
people,
Yeah.
like more
Plus,
closet racism.
I'm practicing because I might be there next year.
Yes.
So
Okay. I suppose we should move on. Really.
sure.
Okay. Mine just a little quick news story, really. I know that a lot of people on here use Brave, or people who listen use Brave, and so Brave is now getting a feature called Containers. So it's something that has been on Firefox already, I think, for a couple of years now, and it's basically each tab or each container has its own cookies, site data storage, and it's separate from the rest. So you could have like a personal profile, a work profile, social, school, things like that, so that your logins on one thing are not getting confused with another, etc. As I said, Firefox has been doing it for a while. In fact, Firefox came up with the idea back in 2015.
I was going to say it's been at least 10 years.
Yeah, and they've built it in with multi-account containers, which is a way of kind of, if somebody still uses Facebook, then to log into
So
Facebook.
like a web app?
No, it will silo off all of your, like, I've got all of these shows that I've got to be signed into separate Yahoo, YouTube accounts with.
Right.
And
But
so
you can do that exact same thing with web apps. You just have to click a little
Right.
button that says separate it, and then you log in. Now, I do also understand that containers are more isolated.
But this
But
way I can
it's-
have one browser up with all the tabs that I'm going to be working with, right there. It's all inside of one tool, and it works really, really well. But the biggest
Yeah.
thing also is that it transfers from one device to the next through the Firefox account
Sync.
thing. So if
Yeah.
I'm working on my machine when I'm on the road, I've still got all of the same containerized setup as I do right here.
Because Brave has become pretty much my default browser now. Firefox is now my backup. It's kind of the other way around to the
Such
way it
sad
used to
words
be.
you speak.
Look, man, at the end of the day, it's a Chromium-based world, whether you like it or not. The amount of times I've had to go on to...
So we would like to congratulate Majid for his time here on mintCast and wish him well on his journey.
You're going to have to send me off with him then.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell are you having to go at me for? This geezer's on Google Chrome. Full fat googly,
Right?
Chromey shit. Flipping Sundar
I fight the
Pichai is in
fights
his
I can
back
win.
garden, you know, spying in his trash can bin. Do you know what I mean? Flipping out, having to go at me.
Right? Hey, at least I
God.
stood up for you.
Nah, thanks, Joe. I love you. I've always loved you.
Mwah.
Yeah. Anyway, you
The
know,
best brother I never had.
before this officially becomes 18 plus, go on, Bill.
Oh, okay. So yeah, Image 3 released with big upgrades for self-hosted photo libraries. Now, one of the main reasons I had a quick look at this article. It's on Linuxiac.
Yeah.
I wanted to find out because a problem that Majid has been having. I set up a image server some time back. Majid had a specific use case that he was trying to that I hadn't even considered. I probably should have. He wanted to be able to just put photos, and it makes sense if you think about it. He's got a directory full of photos. He's not going to run them through the web interface one photo at a time to upload them. He just wants to put them where the library stores them and have the application parse the photos and organize them into the library. And it looks like that is now. I'm looking for the.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was when I saw this news article. It's the same thing. I was trying to figure out in it about how I can do that or how to do that better. Maybe, I mean, as I said, maybe it was just because I didn't understand how to do it the first time round. But yeah, I'm gonna have to dig a little bit deeper because I do like Image the project, and yes, spinning the thing up isn't that difficult, really. You know, and you know, it's any problems I had with setting it up were more to do with the way that it is as regards you know, the uploads. You know, yes, you know, taking any photos, it gets directly uploaded, that's fine. As I said, I had, as Bill said, I had a large volume of photos from different devices and this, that, and the other, which I'd carefully sort of, you know, put into directories onto a hard drive, and it would be thought that would be great if that was up on Image, you know. And this was primarily for all of us, but you know, also specifically for my son, because you know he's the one with some issues, and that, you know, he liked looking at old photos and things like that. Anywho, so I'm gonna have to look into this more and try and figure out how and
Yeah, it's about
where.
halfway through the article. It says for server maintenance. Well, I'll go a little higher. Additionally, Image 3.0 introduces a recently added page on web and mobile. It seems like a lot of the development for this release has been on the mobile side, but on the server side, Image now offers integrity checks. The system scans storage directories and compares files on disk with database records, reporting untracked or missing files and checksum mismatches, which I assume means that if you throw some files in there, Image will see that those files are not in the database, and it will add them, and which it probably should have done that since the beginning, because that makes sense for people that are migrating from some other type of service.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's an interesting thing here, which again is great for maybe other people, but not necessarily for myself. Additionally, Image 3.0 introduced a recently added page on web and mobile, sorting assets by their import date rather than their capture date. So again, that's not going to be very helpful if you've got loads of 10-year-old photos or something, because it's going to think that they're all taken today.
Yeah, that's not useful at all.
No. So I'm not entirely, unless if you've got the, I said, if you've got multiple different devices that different people are using and they're all getting uploaded to the same image server, in which case that kind of works a little bit more. I don't know. Something to do, something to. I mean, it's a good project. Let's be honest. We all like it. We all try and use it in some way, shape, or form. There's some good things that they're doing there. It's amazing what you can do. But obviously everybody's mileage may vary depending on your use case and what it is that you're looking for in the service like this.
Well, I'll say this, and I'm really just speaking for myself, but there's solutions out there that are FOSS, free and open source software, that you really have to make a lot of sacrifices or whatnot to
Concessions.
use, concessions to use. Image, um, really the only concession is learning, well, of course, having hardware you can put it on, but learning how to set up the server and then get to
Eh?
set the
Learning how
server.
to set up the server, I mean, that's learning Docker. And
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot about Docker when I was doing this whole image thing. I must say, I
Yeah.
did learn quite a bit,
I mean, if you're
and it was
running
useful.
Proxmox, setting up the LXC is quicker and easier than the Docker. That's saying something, because the Docker's pretty easy.
It's one of the easiest Docker setups I've ever seen, because really you're not doing any Docker work yourself. You're downloading their scripts that's doing the Docker work.
And the thing you have to learn there is mounting volumes.
Well, you go into one of the files that you download as part of the process is an environment file, and that's where you tell it exactly. But you got to do that with Docker anyway.
Yeah,
You've got to bind whatever folders that you want to use that's outside of the Docker container, unless you just want everything on the Docker system, which I don't recommend doing it that way, but it's possible.
No, because then the first time you update, you lose everything.
Well, you can. There's two things you can do. You can specify Docker volumes that are persistent, but they stay inside of the Docker system, or you can actually bind specific places in the file system.
yeah,
That's two ways to make it persistent to where it doesn't get deleted. But if you have a persistent volume and the container's not running for some reason, and you accidentally run a prune, a Docker prune volume command, that will delete it too. So
yeah.
you got to be aware of those things.
Cool. Alrighty then. So we're now on to that favorite bit of the show, the wanderings.
Okay, well, my wanderings are a bit shorter this time because we switched back to a bi-weekly, and it's been atrociously hot in my garage, to the point where some of my hardware is not working.
We were probably hotter, actually. To be fair, we did
okay.
hit 110.
So did we.
2 weeks ago. Yeah, but you're used to that. We ain't.
Yeah, that's true. I have this thing called air conditioning inside.
Yeah, we don't. Interesting
I told you how
side
to build
note.
your own one.
An interesting side note, as I've mentioned before, I often fall asleep listening to old episodes of our podcasts. And I was on the Linux OTC one from a year ago, where I was complaining about the heat wave, and Leo and Eric were having a go at me for not buying an air conditioner. I was like, look, it's hot now, but it'll never be hot again. What's the point? When is it ever going to be hot again? What's the point of me buying an air
The
conditioner?
following year.
Yeah, and I just sat there thinking to myself, you're an idiot, my dude. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Joe.
$20 worth of equipment, you can build your own air conditioner.
Okay.
Build.
No, it's true. You can make a swamp cooler for almost nothing. A
Yeah.
bucket, a squirrel cage fan, some ice, some water, and a cheesecloth. Oh, and a knife to do some cutting. But
an air conditioner, that is not.
It's a swamp cooler.
It's a swamp cooler. Yeah, that wouldn't help me.
mintCast does not accept any responsibility for any of your own endeavors that you may do after having listened to
for all the
some of
black
the
mold
ideas
you're going to get in your home from all that.
Look. No, I completely disagree with that, because the entire Southwest is run on swamp coolers. In El Paso, they don't have air conditioners; they have swamp coolers. But I guess that's another conversation. So
They also have zero humidity.
that's true. That's an important factor when it comes to swamp coolers.
I feel like I want to look that up to verify that.
You can. I lived in El Paso for a very long time. We never had an air conditioner. We only had swamp coolers.
Well,
Granted, we weren't rich. either.
Anyway, shall we move back
Yes.
hastily?
Yes. Anyways, I was discussing the heat, and some of my hardware has gotten kind of iffy because of it, like my RK100 wireless mechanical keyboard and my garage PC itself. We have also had the power go out a couple of times, and the UPSs are working well for the devices that they're hooked up to, like my mini rack and the networking stuff. But my garage PC isn't, and I'm going to have to change that because I don't want the short power outages that we have ruining my RAM in my garage PC or the motherboard itself, honestly. But that will limit the life of my UPS. But since the power never goes out for more than a few seconds anyway, I think it'll be okay. But I have started migrating my Jellyfin from a VM to an LXC. I started doing it because of the network shares on the VM. If I restarted the server with the shares, then it would break the Jellyfin. So I was trying out the LXC on the same machine as the shares. I may try a couple of different things in regards to the machine it's set up on and how it connects to the drives. And then I tried to migrate some of the movies from one drive to the other. And my USB fan that I was using was pointed in the wrong direction, and it was a very hot day. So long story longer, I thought the SATA controller died. And yeah, because it wasn't being seen anymore. This gave me the chance to test out that 10 port that I've been planning to switch to, but for whatever reason, it still wasn't coming up. But the old 5 port one that I had was still working. So I ended up dropping the 4 terabyte from Open Media Vault so that the container would be able to start, and connected all the other drives so that it was working without Audio Bookshelf. Now, in regards to Audio Bookshelf, I have a second instance running. It's an almost complete backup that I tend to let other people use, and my son uses it quite often. So I switched to using that for myself. So then I ordered another of those 6 ports and was figuring that I could just, drop in replace and set everything up the way it was before, and that would work perfectly fine. And I also pulled out the 40 millimeter fan that I had tried previously from that set-top box that I gutted for the hard drive. I took another look at it because I thought it wasn't working because I'd had it hooked up to a SATA adapter. And I tested it with an external power supply, and it worked just fine. I did compare it to the SATA 4-pin fan adapter and saw that the problem was that the power and the ground were opposite on the fan. So I really should have thought of that before. I switched the pin connectors around on the JST connector for the fan, and now when I hook it up, it kicks right on. And then I mounted it to the SATA adapter, the PCIe SATA adapter, using some zip ties, and hopefully that little bit of extra cooling is all it really needs. The smarter solution is probably to move all of this inside somewhere, with climate control and air conditioning, and especially now that 2 of the kids have moved out, and I'm lifting weights at the gym instead of in my garage, or at least the NAS portion of it. And then I went and hooked up the new 6 port, and it still didn't work. Okay, so maybe the old one is still good. I'll have to test that one out too. But at that time, I still had a problem. So I went back to digging through Journal CTL, like I had done in the past, and various forums to see if I can find the actual issue. Yes, the fan is hooked up this time, so hopefully I won't get that same problem again. But in looking through and trying out various things, I discovered that it was an issue with IOMMU, which is the firmware that allows for PCI pass-through in Proxmox. What ended up working to get it back up and running again was turning off IOMMU at boot for one reboot, which allowed the PCI device to be seen by the system and then turn around and boot again with it turned back on. Then I was able to get multiple boots with the drives continuously just coming back, like no issues whatsoever. But now I have multiple of the PCI cards that are probably working, including like the 6-port ones that I had previously had hooked directly instead of with the PCI adapter. So I need to find uses for them and see how it comes out. And I do think I have some other uses for them because I still have all those 2.5-inch drives. And I'm also back to needing to test that 10-port again. But that may do better on another device, like my garage PC, and just have a bunch of 2.5s hooked up to that and pull the 8 terabytes that are currently hooked to it, and maybe the 1 terabyte, so that it can use a little bit less power. Um, Now I have plenty of power supplies, so I can build another one of the DASs that I have and make it into a NAS. And I also want to make another rack at the very least for in my living room here. Um, I did get 4 spools of PETG, which is what I need to be able to print the racks instead of PLA. I got it on Prime Day, and I got 4 spools for $30, so I'm quite happy with that. Now I just need to import all the different STLs that I need into Tinkercad and align everything up before I start printing, so that I can plan it all ahead. I know, crazy thought, Joe, planning ahead. It's nuts. The power supply takes up the most space, and I'll probably need to make a mock-up of it in the design phase so that I know exactly how it will fit in relation to everything else. And then I do have the PC already. I'll use the set-top box one, and it has enough bandwidth to be able to at least run the external SATA drives. So we'll see how that goes. Now, moving on from that, because of how terrible the battery life is on my Latitude, it might just be an aging battery. I might order another one of these times and see if that fixes it. I've started using my mini laptop more. The Latitude doesn't last an hour off the charger. While the mini will do, yeah, it's bad. While the mini will do 6 hours or more. The mini laptop doesn't do graphics processing excessively well. And that does kind of slow things down sometimes, but the extra battery life is really nice. Now, something that has always bothered me on the mini device was the splash screen and the boot text. The splash screen has always been sideways, and the boot text is upside down after the last time I tried to fix it, because it was sideways, and then I had updated Grub and that left it upside down. So I knew it was fixable, but I just didn't have the right number in there for how it was supposed to be oriented. So I went in and redid the Grub, and that fixed that orientation. Now the splash screen, for me, it took a bit more research, but I found out that it's controlled by Plymouth. And I know Plymouth got brought up the other day in the Matrix, and I was talking about I had played with it some, and there's actually, I guess, some software out there that will control it instead of me doing it this way and just going in and directly manipulating it. And there's a file location that has a series of images that can be changed. There's actually 2 sets of images, and all I did was adjust the rotation on them, and then save them so that they show up in the correct orientation during the boot process. I know it's more of a workaround and a fix, but you know what? I'll take the win. Then I decided to have some fun with it and replace the images with something else. I did have to downscale a lot to get it to fit, but now my splash screen, both startup and shutdown, is a picture of Yoda. Because why not? He's the right color. It fits with the mint theme, and I thought it was funny. I might swap it out again for something else later, like the Hulk or something else green, just to annoy whoever sees it. But if you're curious, the path for this is under user share, Plymouth themes, mint logo. You do have to do afterwards an update tech init ram fs space tech u, and then it just works. You got to test it a couple of times to make sure the orientation is correct. But yeah, it's come out well.
Have you
And
played around with Plymouth before?
I have not.
Yeah,
I've looked in the past to find a way to correct that orientation, but I'd always figured it was a Grub just something in Grub that I'd be able to do, but it's never affected that splash screen. So yeah,
Yeah, because on Arch you've got to set that up yourself if you want it.
Oh, you use Arch, do you?
Yeah, I knew that was.
Oh, I didn't know. I've never heard of
do
it.
you run Arch?
Yeah,
No, it's
Oh,
never
but
heard
if you
anything
want,
like that.
if you want Plymouth, I mean, you don't have to, but like you said, you like on a Debian based system where you've got to do the what's it called again, the init RAM or
FS.
yeah, you've got a command on Arch called mkinit tac capital P, and that rebuilt because that whole thing with the splash is all part of the init system, or it gets built into the init image, and
Right.
so
Because
it's
with Arch, I assume that a base build probably doesn't even have that splash. It just has
no,
the
it doesn't. I mean, it gives you the whole list. Actually, it depends on how you set it up, because if you use Grub by default, which it gives you the choice of Grub or system boot, but if you use Grub, then it just gives you that whole scrolling list of all the stuff
everything that's happening.
yeah.
The journal CTL.
Whereas if you use some other way, it'll add the quiet kernel parameter to the end. Arch boots up so fast though that you've got the Plymouth screen, but it's only on there for a second or two before you're booted up and on a working desktop. So it's really not necessary, but I do it because, well, for one thing, adding Plymouth, this was something interesting I found out. If you use encryption for your home directory, or in my case the entire root directory, the uh, and you don't have Plymouth installed, you've just got basically a TTY where you enter the password for your Lux encryption. If you have Plymouth running, it gives you a nice, elegant screen with the logo there and the password field to type the Lux password into. So it's kind of nice that way. But yeah, there's so many you can go on some of these like opendesktop.org, and there's Plymouth themes on there. There's a lot of old ones. You can get real
All I
nostalgic.
did for that was go and find a PNG, which is why I had to scale it down so
Yeah.
much.
What's the specs on your mini laptop?
Oh, it's i5. Hold on. What is it? LSCPU. It is i5 10th gen 210Y. So
Oh, that's
10
not bad
210Y.
actually. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
no, this thing is balling. And then free space dash M. It's 16 gig, which the 16 gig is actually soldered on, so I can't upgrade that. But it's
Wah,
got
wah,
two
wah.
500 gig drives on it. One of them M.2, the other one soldered on.
That's not bad, man. That's a decent
Yeah.
machine.
Soldered
that.
on drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing as well.
WTF?
That's been going on for a while, man.
But
No,
this
new.
is a really, really, really tiny PC.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Anywho. All right then. I suppose it's time for my wanderings. It's actually been a while since I've been on. Actually, I was just checking through previous episodes. The last time I was on was the end of April. Just stuff happening, and nothing of any import. I suppose it is of import. There's been now a year since my near-death experience. So that's amazing. Managed an extra year, eh? Okay, so things that I have got up to in my wanderings. Okay, so I have so Casio OS is something that I have played around quite a bit on my podcasting box, and then also on my distro hopping box, which I use for my distro hoppers digest reviews. And whilst how do I put this? I got the feeling that I was not doing a proper service by putting it on maybe devices which weren't as mission critical. Okay, the podcasting box is a mission critical, but the distro hopping laptop isn't. So I thought, you know what, let's go out on a limb and let's put CashieOS on my work laptop. Which is a Yoga 6. It's actually done quite well. That I've had that device for a good couple of years, 4 years, I think I've had that device. 16 gig AMD Ryzen 7, whatever the models were in 2002, because that's when I bought it. Anyway, and it was great. It worked really well. The device used to heat up a bit. And I wondered whether that was something to do with the scheduler. And I haven't exactly understood in my head what a scheduler, how that works exactly. But I'd looked online, and yes, apparently if I changed the scheduler, it used less power, so therefore it didn't get as hot. And so it was a surprisingly smooth experience. I got all the apps that I wanted working. It didn't do a huge amount. It just, as I said, it was a work laptop, so some word processing and PowerPoints and organizing and emails and stuff like that. Nothing particularly off the reservation. Of course, and it was bloody quick, I must say. I did notice the difference, especially when it came to boot up. The thing booted up like lightning. Now, of course, a sensible person would have just left it at this point. But I then started thinking, well, I wonder what would happen if because it had KDE on it. And I thought, well, I wonder what would happen if I put GNOME on it. I'd played around with GNOME on Kashii in the past, but let's try that. So I did that and quite liked GNOME. And so I thought to myself, well, having both of these is probably a problem. The so-called subjective bloat that some people like Leo would not complain about, but get exercise that people do complain about. And so I thought, this is a great thing for AI, right? Why not use AI to come up with a script, right, that could strip out all the KDE and leave just the GNOME. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I better use a proper AI. Meaning, something that's a bit more coding and, technologically based. So I went for Claude, which, you just get a free account. And so I did that. And it basically deleted all graphical environments. Following the script that AI Claude told me to do. Then I discovered the joy that is BTRFS snapshots, because this had ButterFS when it's the default thing for Kashii. And so I had all these snapshots, which were brilliant because I could just go back, I can just roll back. But then I found a bug, which is that I couldn't make those snapshots the base image now. So it would say, you'd go into it, and you would kind of, choose the snapshot, and then it will say you're using a snapshot. Do you want to restore this and make it your main? You'd say yes. It would then say it's done, restart now, and it would restart, and it would just go to the bulked version that was there before. And I did look into this, and it's something to do with the fact that when you install CashieOS, you've got a variety of different bootloaders. So you can do Grub, you can do Systemd, and you can do Limine, which is the one that they prefer, which is the one that I did, and that works a little bit more. It's a bit more problematic, basically, if you want trying to do so I did try. I had to change a couple of paths and this, that, and the other, but I couldn't get it to work. And in the end, I thought, forget it. And I had a Ventoy stick. The Ventoy stick had Fedora on it, so now I'm back to Fedora on it. Because, hey ho, that's the kind of thing I do, innit? Otherwise I wouldn't be on it. Has anybody else used ButterFS snapshots and managed to not have this problem? Take that as a no.
Yeah.
It is brilliant, the fact that you can do those snapshots. It was, as I said, I just wish I could have made it permanent.
That tool that they use on OpenSUSE, you can get that working.
Snapper.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
get that working on Arch.
so that's what I was trying to use, and it was, as I said, it's something to do with that bootloader. That's the issue. That
Well,
Limine thing. If I'd used Grub, maybe I wouldn't have had the same issue.
but you still would have had to deal with ButterFS can only fix what's on ButterFS, and if you screwed up what was in the boot partition, you might have screwed up what was in that what is it? Not extended for, but Microsoft file system that you have to use for
NTFS.
the UEFI. No, it's a FAT32 actually.
FAT32,
yeah, for the UEFI.
I mean, I don't think that was the issue, because, as I said, the booting was never a problem. It was just that it was just always going to a blank screen because the script had deleted the entire desktop. And so when I went into used one of the previous snapshots, I was then able to get into a graphical user interface, but it couldn't restore it for some reason. Anyway, it does mean though that I'm planning now to use ButterFS for nearly everything now, because now that I know that this cool thing happens, even if I didn't manage to get it to work properly this time around, at least I know now that this is something I can use. Okay. So my wife was complaining about her laptop because it's Windows, and it's a ThinkPad that I got off eBay, and it's got this really random bug where it will once in a while the keyboard and the touchpad won't work, and so you then have to do a reset, switch the computer on and off again, and then it works. So I mean, it's not a big thing, but for some reason it was really annoying her. I was just like, you just have to switch it on and off again, dear. But anyway, so then she said, why is it doing it? Why is it doing it? Is it because there's a problem? I said, no, it's because it's bloody Windows. Windows has got this random bug. It's doing it. Trust me. If I try anything else on it, it will be fine.
Is she one of those people that just closes it when she's not using it? Never shuts it off? Yeah.
Yep.
There's so many things that can go wrong. You could open that thing up and not have any Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
like
and exactly. And I keep telling her that's what she should do. And she's like, yeah, but I do. And it's like, well, no, you kind of don't, dear, because this keeps happening.
Yeah, some of the people are not aware that they're not shutting it off. They think that when they close it, it's not running, and so it must be off. Well, no, it's going into a standby, and not all your stuff is going to come back.
Yeah. Anyway, so then she said, well, maybe I will try this Linux thing then. So I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'm not going to put it onto this because, why not I've got the spare one, which I use for distro hopping. Why don't I put it onto that, and then you can have a go with that then. So this then leads to a discussion about which distro to put on, considering that, I am going to be tech support. And as much as I feel that I'm technologically minded, she is the exact opposite. And it's almost like the more I learn, the less she seems to know. It's like almost like stuff is. It's like God has decided, right, that there's this amount of technology information that is going to be in this house, in the Sheikh family household, and if Majid increases, then Mrs. Majid is going to come down because it has to equal zero. I don't know what it is.
They are put here to be our antithesis.
Mm-hmm.
They have to figure out a way to.
They are the yang to our yings.
Yeah, they have to undo everything that we do, one thing at a time.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was thinking, so what distro do I put on? Now, I mean, I suppose the easy answer is put Linux Mint on, which is like, okay, fine, but that why do stuff the easy way, right?
Yeah. God forbid.
But then I did also think that she's never ever going to update this in any way, shape, or form, so it does need to be slightly future proof. And it's 2404, which is anyway.
Linux Mint has the ability to automatically update with a couple of clicks.
but
you're
it's
asking for it. If she's the kind of person that never restarts, and you do all that automated updating.
Well, you also set the power settings.
Yeah. So then I thought LMDE, because I thought Debian, rock stable, blah blah whatever. Let's try that then. So I did try that actually, and it just looked a bit boring, to be honest. So then I thought maybe I'll go something immutable, because she can't mess up something immutable. She could still mess up an LMDE, but she couldn't mess up a I don't know, Fedora Kino White or whatever immutable version it is. So I thought about that, and then I landed on probably the worst answer in the history of answers for this. I put Manjaro on.
Does your wife run Arch?
So now my wife runs Arch.
No, it's worse. It's Arch, but it's Arch by people that tell normal people they can run Arch.
Yeah. So the reason for doing this was, well, one was a really obvious reason, which was that I had it on the Ventoy stick and I wouldn't have to download something else.
Oh,
So
for
that was
God's
point
sake.
yeah, that was point number one. Point number two was it's KDE, and KDE, whatever anybody wants to say, is the most Windows-like looking.
Yeah.
It's like if I given a GNOME, she would have just kind of gone, whoa, yeah, in that voice as well. And then, as I said, so I just thought, and then there was one or two very niche programs, apps, whatever, which I know you'd be able to get on Ubuntu. But I know there's no flat packs for it. And so I needed something that would have the native packages for it. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to go down the AUR route, obviously, because that would just be madness. But at least having a big software repository would be good. So, and if with LMDE, you can't do PPAs and stuff like that. I mean, I know there's some changes happening now along that line, but you can't. And so, therefore, yes, my wife sort of runs Arch, except, and this is the important point, she hasn't actually put it on yet. After having to spend all that time doing it and setting it up for her, has she actually put it on yet? She's like, no. Why? Because all the stuff's on this one. Okay, fine. Probably just as well, actually, isn't it, really? If you think about it.
If she doesn't install anything new on it, then she's going to get on with it just fine. It's I think Manjaro is probably okay for people that just use it the way it is and don't mess with it.
Yeah.
And stay away from the AUR.
Oh yeah, obviously.
You can do that with anything Arch based. You can install Arch and you can get on perfectly fine because the regular repo is just so huge.
Exactly. So that was my thing. So yeah. So anyway. So find out next time on the next exciting episode of Magic's Wife Runs Arch as to how this goes. As I said, she hasn't actually put it on yet, so I've used it more than she has. Anyway. Okay. So I bought a new phone. What a surprise, eh? Yes, I know exactly. Why did I buy a new phone? Because I was getting not because I need it. Because I mean, why? Of course, I don't need another new phone.
Didn't you have a 25?
I had an S25 Ultra. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Crying out loud! I ain't even got mine paid off yet.
Anyway,
you're not a doctor.
No, I sold it, and with that money, I paid it off.
Oh, there. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I sold it. There is some buying and selling. It's not like it's not a bottomless pit, although my wife seems to think it is especially when it comes to home improvements, that I am a bottomless pit of money. Anyway, I found an Oppo Find N5, which is one of the folding phones from Oppo. Which wasn't officially released. It was going to be the basis of the OnePlus Open 2, which was then cancelled. I don't know why exactly it was cancelled. Probably just to do with, money and there was around the time of the tariffs. That's why. Yes, it was around the time when Liberation Day and all that was happening, and so companies were deciding whether they actually wanted to sell stuff in America or not. Anyway, I found it online on eBay or whatever, and I was getting it very cheap. And then I found out the reason why it was very cheap is because it was the Chinese ROM. Now, to be fair, the seller did tell me this. He said, look, this is the Chinese ROM. It's not the global ROM. And in fact, he actually canceled the sale first because he was like, I'm not convinced that you understand that this is the Chinese ROM, because I don't want people buying and then returning it back to me saying, oh, I didn't realize it was Chinese. And I went, no, I understand it's the Chinese ROM. It's fine. I thought I stupidly thought it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It is actually. So anyway, I did get a good price. I mean, how much is it? It was about 1,500 new. I mean, this was new as well, but I was getting it for 650. I mean, I just thought I couldn't say no to that deal. And I managed to sell the S25 Ultra, and so I managed to pay that off. So it's not like I was actually. Did I even actually make some money? I might have even made a small amount of money, not much, maybe about £50. But anyway, so this is my first time with a actual Chinese specific Android ROM, which, as people know, Google is banned in China. And getting Google Play services to work though was actually really easy. It's just a setting. It's already pre-installed on there, Google Play services. It's just that it's not enabled by default. And once you enable it, you can then download the Google Play Store from Oppo's App Market, and you can then install all the googly apps that you want to your heart's desire and log in and everything like that. What you can't do is unlock the bootloader and flash another ROM on it. So you can't, try and put Lineage or even the global ROM. Why? Because Oppo aren't idiots. They know that people will buy these for cheap and then, flash the global ROM and then sell them on overseas. And so, they want to maximize how much money they make. So they put this hard lock in there. It is impossible, apparently, to unlock this bootloader. And anything that you try to do will brick it. And I wasn't going to do that. So anyway, I just followed. There's quite a few guides around there, actually. There's a Scottish guy called Average Dad. He actually has a store, averagedad.com, .co.uk. Can't remember. Anyway, where he does buy and sell Chinese specific ROMmed phones. And because they're Chinese specific, they're cheaper, obviously. And he's got some guides on how well it will work in the West. So the short answer for it is that it works about 90% the way of a standard Android phone will that's got a global ROM. But it does need some not hacks, but you do need to adjust what you do. So for example, Wear OS won't work, just won't, full stop. Android Auto didn't used to work. It does now. They've actually pushed an update which will allow it to. You can get rid of maybe 99% of the Chinese stuff that's on there. But one or two things will still remain. So like they've got this AI assistant, which you can turn off, but you can't uninstall. And quick share for some reason won't work. So you can get a version of quick share, which is community made, called Bada, which will bring the functionality back. Because it then uses some other way of making the handshake between the two devices. But that's what you have to do. You have to use things like local send. I mean, local send works anyway, but Revance doesn't seem to work, mainly because Micro G won't work on it. Because of the changes to Wear OS, because it just wouldn't work with Wear OS, I've actually got rid of my Wear OS device, and now this actually goes a little bit philosophical. So one of the things I always loved about Android was the fact that you didn't need to be tied into an ecosystem. You could have your cloud on one thing, you could have your music on something else, you could have your smartwatch being another brand, you could have all these kinds of things with different brands, and they would still work together relatively well. And I had maybe moved a little away from that just because, choices decreased so much in the Android space in the West. LG has disappeared. Sony might as well not exist. Motorola really only budget. So, it becomes easier to get locked into an ecosystem, whether that's the Samsung one or the OnePlus one or whatever like that. But if you actually do take a step out, so Eric on OTC had talked about how he has this Amazfit watch, which he uses for sleep tracking and all this kind of stuff. And it's compatible with Android, but it's not Wear OS. And actually, I found that works perfectly fine with it. And I can even do all my Google Pay. And even if I don't want to use Google Pay, I can use Curve, which is a kind of third-party app that you have in the UK and Europe, which will allow you to do the same kind of contactless payments and stuff like that. So nearly every single problem or limitation I was able to sort out. And part of it, I think, was because I'm a Linux nerd, because I'm actually used to doing things and hacking way things around to make sure this works with that and that works with this and stuff like that. Ironically, I actually think it's slightly more secure, because I'm getting a lot, because all the Google apps I've had to download directly, right? They weren't pre-installed on there. While Google Play Services was, the Google apps weren't. And you find out that a lot of the Google apps do a lot more tracking than, I mean, I knew they do a huge amount of tracking anyway, but I mean, they do even more. So like, I'd press and it will come up and it will say things like, this app needs to know your app list. I'm like, why the hell does it need to know my app list? But it turns out it needs to know my app list, because that's a thing that the app wants. And because it's already pre-installed, normally you don't realize. So yeah, ironically, I might have actually got a slightly more secure system. I must say, it is a damn good phone though, man. Battery life is brilliant. 6,000 milliamp hour battery. The camera is really good. I like the foldable thing. I'm reading a lot more on it. So I'm happy. I've got to be honest. And hey, it gives me something to talk about on these wanderings. Because of that, I changed some earbuds. So I've spoken about before that I've got an addiction to earbuds. My daughter wanted my Nothing A earbuds, and I gave them to her, and I then instantly had regret, seller's regret. It's not really seller's, is it? But seller's remorse is probably the word, because they were pretty good. And so I was thinking about, what should I get? And I thought to myself, I've never had one of those open ear. You get these open ones nowadays that people kind of put in that clip on. I tried to get one of them. I got some Bose ones actually, but there was a fault with them and they wouldn't work very well. And so I managed to. There's an Indian brand called Noise, which do headphones, Bluetooth 6, LHDC, all these kind of funky codecs, and they say they're tuned by Bose. So I thought, well, okay, I've never had Bose headphones before. Let's try them. Anyway, got them, and they were fine, and they were perfectly good. And then the actual Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds got discounted for Prime Day. So then I was kind of like, well, why buy a fake Bose when I can just buy the Bose? So I did that. Now, I had been surprised, actually. I had a feeling that, these might be, they might have the Beats problem. They're just a name. And really, they're not that good underneath. Actually, no, they're pretty decent. Are they the best? No. They're not. They're good mid-ranges. And for £100, that's an okay price. Anything more than that, you wouldn't spend the money on. The noise cancelling is really good as well, I must say. People talk about, it's almost like science. It's not almost, but but it is very, very good. I did recoup a little bit by getting rid of some of the older stuff that I had within the house. I had these OnePlus buds, which I got rid of, some Sennheiser buds that I got rid of as well. I upgraded my daughter's Moto G32 to a Xiaomi phone. And I actually didn't want to do this. What I wanted to do was to put Lineage on it. And there is a Lineage port for the G32. Unfortunately, it's only for the UK model. And apparently, when I bought this one, it was an EU model, and it was a Spanish one. And Motorola won't unlock the bootloader for it. It's got a locked bootloader initially. And so I just thought, I'm just going to buy another phone. And so I bought this Xiaomi Redmi Note 15. And it's amazing, actually, how, because this phone is basically like a OnePlus 8. If you remember the OnePlus 8 with the curved screen and all that sort of stuff, it's better. It's basically the same thing as that. And now you're only getting it for $200. That's good. So anybody who's watching will notice that I'm using my Samsung Q2U. Now, this Samsung Q2U is the second one that I've had. The first one that was very kindly bought for me by Bill. And for reasons I do not understand, my computer just doesn't see it anymore. It used to for so long. It used to work for so long, used to work fine. And now suddenly it just doesn't. And I wondered if it was the USB, changed the USB, did all sorts of different things. I even checked it with another computer, tried it on Ubuntu and Windows 11 or another computer, and it worked fine. So I don't know whether it's a distro thing. This is a Mint 22.3, and so I do wonder whether Okay, Bill reckons it isn't. So it's not weird. So it's not. So it's not that. Is it maybe something to do with my USB ports? Is there a problem with my USB port? I don't know. Maybe it could be that.
No, I was
Uh,
answering another question you asked
oh, okay, fine.
on here.
And then so I thought I'll get an interface. So I found a cheap. I just went for what was on relatively cheap online. I found an M Audio Solo, which actually Dale says is quite good. And with that, it works. So it's obviously not a problem with the microphone. It's still a bit odd though because it only seems to do one channel, but that's not a big deal for a podcast, I suppose. Anyway, I had this discussion with the Bill, and Bill was like, "You should get a vodcaster, Focusrite kind of thing." Went, yeah, they're a bit expensive, this, that, and the other. Apparently, he sent me one, which is really nice. Although, yeah, I have a
Well,
feeling I've sent it to
maybe.
my old address.
Yeah, I didn't know you moved.
Yeah, and I didn't realize as well because it had been like 4 years. You sent me that one back in 20, not 4 years, 3 years, 23. You sent me that.
Oh,
That's how
crap.
long it's been. I've been on this blooming podcast.
So I need to
Uh,
cancel that.
yeah. Anyway, Fire Stick. So in my last wanderings, which were admittedly a long time ago in April, I had been talking about replacing my Chromecast because my Chromecast was dying, and I do love the Chromecast, but even they're not supporting it anymore. I was very tempted to get a Google TV streamer, but they were too expensive for what they are. And when I saw that Fire Sticks were going over to this Vega OS, I thought, let me get one of the Android ones while the Android ones are still around. And it's been a good experience actually. I've managed to get anything. I haven't really sideloaded anything, but anything I have wanted to. There was Hypnotics I wanted to get on, and I managed to get that working fine. I've got Jellyfin working fine. It's the main thing what we're watching the Football World Cup on. So it seems to be working all right. I definitely wouldn't go near any of the new ones though. This Vega OS bullshit. Forget that. I'm not doing any of that. So I'll be interested to hear what Jim's wanderings actually, because I know he's replacing his Fire Stick. I finally did another bloody episode of my podcast, as in my actual one, the Atypical Doctor one, and I did it with a communist, filthy communist that was here, that is not related in any way to anybody else on the program. The audio wasn't great, and the audio wasn't great on the other guy's side. I mean, there's a joke there about but anyway, I'm not going to make a joke about that. But the question did come to me about how do I improve someone else's audio stream. And I tried to use a couple of things, like Martin Wimpress had talked about this new app that he'd talked about at the Ubuntu Summit, Jive Talking. I think Charlie had also used it as well. It improved it slightly, but not massively. I mean, I still published it because it was a good conversation. It was really interesting, and the guy's a really interesting guy. And we had a good kind of forward and backward about some of the ideological and economic theory and stuff like that. And now we've actually been having a discussion in our matrix about all other things, haven't we? Like NUcaster and all this kind of stuff. So maybe that's something I need to move to, because it seems that because I was using Discord and Craig, which we've all stopped using now because it's just gone pants. I don't know why it's gone, but yeah. If anybody's got any solutions from the listeners, that is, please write in and let us know any other ideas what we can do. And just a quick I know this is probably the least interesting thing of my wanderings, but I always put it in, why not? Just some media that I've been interested or liked. I liked Spider Noir. I was surprised at how much I liked Spider Noir. Actually, I thought it was going to be a complete
It was
bust,
really
but
good. I
it was
enjoyed
good
it.
actually. Yeah, Nicolas Cage was good actually. Been liking the new X-Men 97 season 2. I'm really happy that House of the Dragon is back, and I'm watching that. I want to watch the Agency season 2, which is the Michael Fassbender one. I haven't got around to that. And from a music perspective, Muse released their new album last week, and I love it. It is preposterous, and Matt Bellamy is really up himself. But I love it, man. It's brilliant. Really enjoying it. So I am now going to stop. Any questions from anyone? Have I
Can you
bored
name
you
your
all
favorite
silly?
Lords of Acid song?
You are?
Can you name your favorite Lords of Acid song?
Lords of Acid. No.
You should check that out.
Okay. I have to check that out then. Cool. All right, Jim, take it away.
This podcast is always so much better when Majid is here with his warm personality. So I'm glad
Is
you're
it?
back.
Okay.
And you just need a nice scissor arm for your new microphone,
Yeah.
so you're not awkwardly
Holding.
holding it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's nice, Jim. What do you want? Normally people are nice to me. They want something.
No, that was just
no, but no, that's very nice. Thank you. That's very nice. It
Just
was
a
warm the
compliment.
cockles of my heart.
Okay. Well, good.
Can you
Glad to
check
hear
this boil on my butt?
I got this itch, man.
Oh God, man. You know, on a side note, my dad, he got so fed, because my dad was a doctor as well. He got so fed up with people doing stuff like that he would purposefully shit them up. So when I remember when somebody met him, said, "I've got this mole on here," and he kind of went, "Yeah, that could be cancer, so I get that checked out if I were you." And I was like, "Dad, was it really?" And he's like, "No," but now he's never going to ask me again.
So if you got a friend that's a mechanic and you got something wrong with your car, the first person you're going to go to is your friend that's a mechanic.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying it's not an understandable. I'm not saying it's not an understandable thing to do. It's just annoying.
No, if I go to my friend that's a mechanic, I'm going to show up with a 30-pack. And then I'm going to offer to pay for parts. And then I'm going to offer to sit there with him while he does the work. If most people that go to, their friend that's a doctor, they're not going to show up with a bottle of whiskey and be like, "Hey, help me out." They're just going to be like, "Hey, I got this problem. Help me out."
Actually, to be fair, in the past they did. When my dad, as I said, when my dad was alive, they did. We used to get lots of kind of like, boxes of chocolates and things like that, and things like that. But who remembers their anesthesiologist? I mean, I'm there when they're asleep, for God's sake. If they remember me, it's actually a problem. Anyway, sorry, Jim. This is your wanderings.
I actually had an experience for the first time in my adult life going under general anesthesia a couple months ago. I wasn't going to bring it up, and I still won't. But yes, no, that's not something for the podcast. Okay, so I'm going to start with a question for the other host. If you have a viable laptop or other computer that is more than 15 years old and it has 4 gigabyte of RAM or less, do you have
That's not viable.
a favorite lightweight distro or desktop environment that you would use rather than your normal one that you'd use on a more modern computer? And now your answer might be, like Joe was saying, I don't use anything that old, so that I can't answer this question.
It's not that I don't use anything that old. I'm not going to use anything with 4 gigs of RAM unless I'm using it for a very specific application, like it was a Raspberry Pi or something to that effect. I would put a server distro on it of some kind that was extremely lightweight and then use it for a singular application.
Right.
Okay. I would put Lubuntu. So Lubuntu is my general go-to for something like that. And in fact, I used to run Lubuntu on my first ever laptop I had, which was a 2006 Intel Centrino with 1 gig of RAM and a spinning RISC hard drive. And actually, that ended up getting upgraded to Mint 13 and then spent another 7 years in India, actually, belonging to my brother-in-law. So, and I only had 1 gig of RAM. So actually, probably Mint Mate would be fine, I would have thought, actually, on 4 gigs. And
I was going to ask you, is that back when Lubuntu was using LXDE?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
yes.
Because that is a huge difference.
Yes.
Well, I don't know huge, but it's a difference.
Okay, yes, you're right. You are right. But it's not that much. Not as much as I thought it would be. I thought, when they went to QT and it became LXQT, I thought it was going to be like... but then Plasma itself has become lighter. Do you know what I mean? And more
lighter,
performant.
But I still wouldn't put it on 4 gig of RAM. You could still get the old Lubuntu-like experience with Debian, and then choose the light when you go through the install process. I don't know if you've ever done it with Debian. it gets to the place where you are choosing the desktop environment and choose the light, which doesn't actually say LXDE, but or at least it didn't used to, but it says light, and that gives you an LXDE laptop. If you've got to have a full-fledged or somewhat resembling full-fledged desktop, that's what I would go with, because that's still the lightest option. Way outdated, but not complete. Some people think that it's abandoned or no longer supported. It is supported in that it gets security updates when needed. It's just never going to get any feature
No,
improvements.
I have
Ah,
worked with some like super old tablets that still run, 32-bit, 64-bit, whatever. Um, and about the best I will go with on those is usually MX Linux.
I would my choice though, if it was going to be a machine for me, it would be Arch with i3 or even DWM or something like that, because
Oh,
I
I
know
want to
how
say it
to
again.
manage those things.
Oh
Yeah.
God, here we go again. Arch,
Yeah, but I
really,
mean that's I know with
Yeah.
Arch
really?
it's not going to have any there's not going to be any background processes running that are using any resources that I don't know about, you know. Uh, and I will strip it down to where it doesn't have any of the real niceties running in the background, so as to give me, because let's face it, you're going to need all you can get just for your browser,
Yeah.
to get anything up and running on the browser. So
Well, those are all fair answers. I was curious. So for me, that question is going to lead into the next two things I am going to talk about, right? My answer used to be, because I've had a few old computers, a couple of which I've gotten rid of because they were just so old and the fans were so loud. They only had 2 gigs of RAM. I've gotten rid of a few, couple old desktops in the last 2 years for recycling. My answer for those computers used to be Bodhi Linux, which I know all of us are familiar with to some extent, with the Moksha desktop, because it it's a it's a real desktop environment, but it's almost as light as a window manager, and it was compatible. It's Ubuntu based, so that used to be my answer, and it was amazing how well it ran, and it looks pretty nice. It's a little funky, a little different than many other desktop environments, but in any case, I don't recommend that anymore because it hasn't been updated in so long. It is still, I think, on Ubuntu 22.04. So I have a new answer, and I will explain what that is. I purchased on spur of the moment a old laptop on Craigslist. Maybe I overpaid at $65, called an HP Pavilion D7, and it just looked really nice in the pictures. And I just wanted another laptop to play with as a backup to this one or to do some distro hopping. So uh, that's what I did, and it has an AMD Turion X2 dual core mobile RM75 chip. It's got a whopping 1 gigabyte of L2 cache. It's got 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it came with a 320 gig spinning rust hard drive. The date stamped on it was March 2009. So that would mean it's a 17-year-old laptop. And mind you, it looks beautiful. It looks almost new. It was incredible. That's why I decided to get it. So because I didn't want to put Bodhi on it because I was worried about how old it was, I wanted to try something different. I went with something else called Quark OS. If you haven't heard of it, Quark OS is the sister distribution of Q4 OS. Q4 OS is known, I've talked about it before. It's known as a very lightweight distribution. It's Debian based. And they use either Plasma or the Trinity desktop environment, which is like a very old school, traditional looking desktop environment that I think was based on KDE 3.5. So, and it's still maintained. Now, what Quark is as a sister distribution to Q4OS, unlike Q4S, which is Q4OS, which is Debian based, Quark is Ubuntu based. So if you're like me and you love Ubuntu specifically more than Debian because of the compatibility and similarity with Mint, and because you have the option to use PPAs, to me, that's now the more logical option for me to, if I want to run uh, a desktop environment that is very low in resources. Trinity desktop environment, it looks conventional, like say an old looking version of Cinnamon or an old, very old version of KDE, but it does run very, very low. I don't think it's quite as low as Bodhi, but it's about 400 megs when I boot up. So that's what I put. You can get lower if you run like anti-X with like OpenBox or something. You can get down like 260, 280. But I think if you want something that's going to run use as little RAM as possible, Trinity desktop environment is what I like.
So you're using the Trinity one. You didn't try the main Plasma one then.
I did try KDE Plasma. I like the way KDE Plasma looks, but it uses a hell of a lot more RAM.
So how
way,
much was
way
it using?
more.
Get the microphone, Majid.
Yeah, Majid.
Choke up on that mic.
Yeah. How much was it using?
It was like 850 megs with KDE Plasma and Quark OS, but with Trinity it was like 400 flat.
Okay.
So it's half. Well, actually less than half. So if I was going to recommend, if you like an Ubuntu desktop environment and you could stand Trinity, which I found it very familiar, to me, that is my new, like lightweight OS and combination with desktop environment of choice for an old computer with limited RAM. And this is a 17-year-old computer, my 14-year-old laptop that I'm sitting in front of, I'm running Linux Mint, no problem. But it has a lot more RAM. It's a lot newer, a lot more modern. But this nearly.
I'm gonna have to check this out. I'm gonna check this out for distro hoppers. Actually, I quite like this. It's quite cool.
Yeah, it's neat. If you're familiar with Q4OS, it is very, very similar. It's just based on Ubuntu instead of Debian. That's the main difference. So with this laptop, I put the specs in the show notes. I actually put a lot of detail in my show notes. So if you're watching this, if you're one of those people that wants to read all that detail, I'm not going to laboriously read it all here, but it has, the usual, DVD drive and some legacy ports, including a really old school PCMCIA slot. Remember those?
Flippin' heck.
17-inch WXGA 1440 by 900 pixel screen. It's got a webcam built in. It's an old laptop, but it's in beautiful condition. So that's why I picked it up. I said, let me put a very lightweight distribution on there. So yes, I set it up, and I still have a ways to go to tweak it and get it all the way that I like. But I can recommend Quark OS and Trinity desktop environment for an old laptop, an old desktop. I think it's pretty nice looking and pretty fun. All right, so now continuing about underpowered computers. Right. I've had this device sitting on the end of my desk for the last few years. It was like Schrodinger's computer. I wasn't sure if it was working or not working. This thing is as cheap as you can get. In 2018,
alive and dead at the same time.
Yeah. In 2018, I bought this off probably Amazon. It is called the RCA Cambio. You may never have heard it. It was like a little 10.1 hybrid, a combination mini laptop and tablet. You could put the thing, in landscape mode, and it would have a little plastic kickstand that would hold it up on your desk, and a little mini keyboard in front of it that it like clipped into, and you could use it that way, like a little mini laptop. or you can pick it up and hold it, in portrait mode, like, vertically or sideways if you wanted, and then you would put the kickstand down flat, and then it had this cover. The keyboard, little hard plastic keyboard, was built into this like soft plastic cover that would flip over the top of the front of it, so you can kind of pick it up and walk around with it like it was a tablet, right? So it was this little device that I bought for $100 in 2018. It had Windows 8.1, and it was usable back then with Windows. It was
Um,
go ahead.
let me stop you just for a second,
Go ahead.
because this is some nostalgia right here.
Okay.
And if you ever need spare parts for that thing, I've probably got 3 or 4 of them sitting out in my garage in a drawer doing absolutely nothing.
That's
Because
funny.
I was able to pick them up used and broken or
Mhm.
whatever. Just people didn't want them anymore, and they all work just fine. And I know your next part coming up. If you go back in time in the Linux Mint podcast, there is an entire tutorial that I did on the Asus Transformer, which is an Atom processor,
Did you?
32-bit bootloader, and
Oh, I've got to
64-bit
find out.
OSs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may have to go look into the archives, because I never really went back and listened to the many years worth of shows when I joined the show last year or whatever it was. So
'Cause I used to
yeah, so this
love it.
device, it worked pretty well with Windows. It was obviously a little underpowered with 2 gigabyte of RAM. It does have, as Joe said, an Atom processor. I put all the specs in the show notes. Intel Atom quad core CPU, and it gives the model number: 1.33 gigahertz, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabyte eMMC. And then it had a little camera on it. It had Wi-Fi. It had Bluetooth, 1280 by 800 pixels, and it had a touch screen, which worked much better on Windows. Anyway, around the time that I switched to Windows on my main computers in 2023, I got the idea, man, maybe I should do something with this thing, switch it to Linux, because the Windows 8.1 was dragging. It was never that great a performer anyway. And I found a website, a GitHub online, that explained how other people have done exactly what I was attempting to do, how to install a version of Linux on this little device. And I read it carefully, and then there was some blogs that linked from that GitHub. Now these blogs are now gone; they don't even exist anymore. But I followed one of those blogs at the time, and somebody had done what they call, I guess, a respin. They because this device has, as Joe said, a 32-bit bootloader with a 64 gigabit operating system. So you can't just slap any normal download, the ISO that you download on there. It has to be set up or prepared in some way. So I downloaded Lubuntu, which somebody else just referenced, and with the LXQT desktop environment, and they did whatever they had to do. Maybe there's some command they have to put in the ISO or whatever it is, so that it wouldn't actually work. You could boot it from a USB and the one USB slot on this little thing. And I managed to, you had to go into the BIOS or whatever, prepare it somehow. I did it, and I installed Ubuntu on this thing. And, there were a few compromises with doing that on this underpowered little hybrid device, right? For example, the audio didn't work out of the speaker or the 3.5 millimeter jack. But the Bluetooth audio, I've confirmed, works fine. So if you have a Bluetooth speaker or headphones, that works fine. The camera no longer worked. And it was also stuck very notably in portrait mode. So you had to hold it vertically. Now, supposedly there was some way to figure that out. You can go and put some kind of code in the boot up process and get it to go back horizontal. At the time in 2023, I wasn't Linux savvy enough to figure out to make that work. So out of frustration, I just kind of let it sit in the end of my desk and didn't bother with it. So I got all these other, more powerful computers that I could use.
So much nostalgia.
Yes. So yeah, this all probably sounds very familiar to Joe, everything I'm talking about here. So anyway, recently, because in the last couple of weeks, I made huge progress, which I talked about some of that on the previous episode about fixing all these, annoying little problems I was having with different computers and the boot process or RAM sticks that were going bad. And all my other computers are now working fine. They all boot up properly. All the RAM sticks are good. I'm not having anything crashing, knock on wood. So I'm like, I got this one computer here, like this sitting off to the side. Let me try to actually make this usable again. So one of the things that was bumming me out about it was the little mini keyboard and with the hard chiclet plastic keys and the soft cover. That cover, despite it sitting inside my air conditioned house, had degraded. The little like soft plastic cover was like flaking off and like strips of like plastic, and it looked terrible. So I was like, that was one of the reasons why I was kind of ignoring it. So I just had the thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just embrace the portrait mode and leave it vertical. Let me get rid of this keyboard, right? I threw it out. Don't want to
Just
even
use it as a tablet, basically.
Well, yes, but it's clunky as a tablet because if I was going to use it as a tablet, the touch screen, it kind of sort of works, but it doesn't work really like it did on Windows. So here's what I said I'll do. I said, I could use it. I've got this little plastic stand. It's a few inches high. It's made to hold tablets. My dad gave me a couple of these. So if you want to put your tablet on your desk, you don't want to have to like hold it. And sure enough, it was just big enough to hold this thing, even though it's upright, where the majority of it is sticking far up above the tablet. But it has a little like brace, so it kind of holds it up. So I've got this tablet now in this brace, sitting upright next to my laptop on my desk. The AC power plugs right into the top. It's a thin black cord. And then I've got the one USB slot on top. I've got the little tiny dongle from the wireless mouse up in there. And I said, for a keyboard, let me try to get a virtual keyboard. There's a program called Onboard, and I was able to install that. So now I don't actually need the keyboard. I mean, I have a hub I could put up there, but I don't want a hub dangling off the top of this thing. It's like awkward to have that, dangling off the side of this thing. By the way, if you go into the Matrix in the public channel, I put a photograph of this thing on my desk sitting next to my laptop, so you have an idea like how I've got it sitting next to my desk. So then I was worried, is this thing going to work? Because I haven't updated it in years, right? So in Ubuntu, there is in the menu like a system update or full upgrade or whatever it was called. And I ran that. It took a little while, but it had to do a bunch of updates. And eventually I had to reboot it a couple of times, but eventually it got caught up. And mind you, this is based on Ubuntu 22.4. I don't know if that's still being supported or not. I forgot to look that up before the show, but I don't have any personal data on this thing, right? I just want it to work and find some use for it to say that it's viable. Because the screen, it looks nice. It's sitting upright on my desk. And then I had to figure out let me update some software, right? Because Firefox was version 99.0. I had to figure out how to do sudo snap refresh Firefox, which I'd never done before. But okay, it worked. It updated Firefox all the way from 99 to version 152.0. And my idea behind this was I wanted to put it next to my desk as a screen that will update and refresh every so often and show me the prices for the markets I follow. You know how some people, if say you're a day trader of stocks or cryptocurrency, you might want to have one or more screens around your desk where those things just kind of update, right? Like a stock ticker, or but a web page, like an aggregation page that will show you all that stuff in the corner of your eye. It's always there. You can glance over at it.
I'm not a day trader, but I still keep certain stocks up because I know if they start fluctuating heavily, I'm going to have a bad day at work.
Yeah, it's useful for that kind of thing, stocks or markets, commodities. In my case, I follow sports gambling, so there's an aggregation site that I want, and I realized, with the portrait vertical orientation, it's actually more suitable because it fits more on the screen vertically. So once I
Can I
embrace,
make a small suggestion on an
Mhm.
application that you should install both on your main PC and on that tablet? So that way you're not worried about a keyboard and mouse. It's called Barrier, which allows you to share the keyboard and mouse between the two.
What's it called?
Barrier.
Like a barrier reef?
Yes.
Okay. So, in other words, the keyboard from my main laptop here and mouse would be shared with that.
It would be like it's a singular computer and you're just sliding it from the one screen to the other. And when you move your mouse over into the other screen, then your keyboard is also associated with that screen and you
Mhm.
can start typing on it.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to try that because uh, that would be useful. Now, mind you, this thing with such a limited processor and only 2 gigs of RAM, it did struggle when I basically I opened up Firefox. I have this website, it loads right into that website, the last website used, and then I installed. First, I installed uBlock Origin, which everything needs, and then I installed this extension I love called Tab Reloader, which is you can set it to reload the tab at an interval every 15 minutes, once an hour, or whatever you want, and that because it doesn't do that by itself, the website, right? So now it'll sit right next to my laptop, just in the line of my site, to the left of my main laptop here, and it will auto reload. The only problem was Firefox, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was Firefox or the extensions, or it kind of was chugging. It would crash after so many hours. It wouldn't reliably keep working. I was like, this piece of crap is struggling, So then I said, you know what? Let me try Chromium, right? Because I was pretty sure I can use the same extensions, right? So I did sudo apt install Chromium, and it because it's still Ubuntu, it installed the snap, which is fine. Hey, as long as it works. I got the new version of Chromium. I installed uBlock Origin Lite because they don't have uBlock Origin, but I was hoping that would be enough to kill the one pop-up that it generates on the refresh, and it was. And then they had the exact same Tab Reloader extension, which is a great extension, and good news, it works. It's been up for like 48 hours here, automatically refreshing. So I've got this screen just to my left. It's reloading this aggregation site so I can see all the numbers and odds are changing, here. And it's fulfilling its purpose now. I'm so happy that this light, very lightweight device actually has a purpose here. And like Joe said, I might be able to do some other things with it. I'm probably just going to let it do its thing because it's serving a purpose for me. But it can act. There are some other software besides the one Joe just named, where you can extend. I believe I could extend my laptop screen over to this
Yes.
screen.
That was going to
It's
be my
kind of
next
right near
suggestion.
it. So that gives me another option if I want to play with something. I don't know if it'll be able to handle it, considering what it
All it
is.
is a web page.
Yeah. So yeah, it works. So if you're in our matrix and you want to see what it looks like sitting next to my my main laptop, and you want to see what my desk looks like, because you guys only see my living room and bedroom window, generic house background. You don't actually see the array of computers and screens I'm surrounded by. You at least get the view of what's right here in front of me on this portion of the 2 L-shaped desks. And yeah, I'm very happy that this thing is working. So I could now, if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, hey, how many computers do you have? I might have vacillated. I couldn't give you an answer because I wasn't sure about this one, if this was like real, if it was dead, if it was about to get thrown in the garbage. But I can now answer that question. I have 3 desktops, 2 laptops, 1 small form factor device I use as an HTPC, and now I have this little hybrid device, so that makes 7, not counting phones and Android tablets, 7 computers. So
Those are rookie numbers.
yeah, I know. Other people have got way more than me, but I'm excited that I actually got this working and it's serving a purpose and it fits actually better, vertically upright on my desk. And it's almost at like the same angle, the way my laptop sits. It's almost like right at the same angle. It's kind of just perfect sitting up here. So yay, Linux. Now I'm going to talk about, we were talking about Fire TV before. I've been a big proponent of Fire TV for years. I got my first Fire TV stick in 2019. I have 3 of them now, 2 Fire TV 4K Max devices, and then 1 older Fire TV 4K stick. I used to have the Android Recast. I've got a couple of Fire HD tablets. I have Amazon Prime, of course. I was pretty well in on their whole ecosystem. But I've been frustrated because even the Fire TV 4K Max devices, they only have 5 gigs of storage space. And once you add some big applications, right? I've got Plex, I've got Jellyfin, I've got SmartTube, I've got Tizen Tube, I've got, a whole bunch of, paid streaming services or free streaming services, Paramount, Hulu, the list goes on and on and on. I'm just out of space, and I'm getting all these warnings about how I'm out of space. I can't download anything new. The updates are a problem. My Fire TV sticks are still running pretty well. They're not like crashing or bogging down. However, storage space is a major problem. And I'm pretty frustrated about it. Plus, there's a lot going on that's turned me off against the Amazon ecosystem. As I said, the Recast, where I used to have my over-the-air DVR, is long gone. I got rid of it months ago. It's out of production, and there's not a whole lot of reason for me to stick with Amazon's ecosystem, except my 32-inch TV has Fire TV as its main OS. However, I just ignore that and boot right in, and turn the TV on. It goes right into input 1, which is my new device. I said, you know what? Let me just spend a few bucks. I purchased the Google TV Streamer 4K on Amazon the other day for $99. Now, I have a small gripe about it. If you were willing to buy the white one, it was $74. I wanted the gray colored one because I don't do white, and it was $99. I hate white that much that I paid like another $25. Now, I don't know if that was just the day I bought it, maybe a month ago. I don't know if the prices are different normally or what the deal is, but that's what I did.
Rattle can and a screwdriver for $15.
What? Can of spray paint? You would, Joe? Would you have been taken that baby apart and been spray painting it black?
He probably
Yes,
would.
I would have.
He absolutely would have.
100%.
He'd have powder coated it.
Yes. I'd have gotten that rhino skin spray that people put in their truck beds just to annoy people when they go to touch it.
How big of a device are we talking about here?
Okay. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm going to talk about. It is definitely bigger. It is not a stick, I use air quotes, like the Fire TV 4K Max. It doesn't have an HDMI protuberance where it like plugs into the back of your TV like this and like hangs hidden behind the back of your TV. Right. It's more like the size of the phone, but even thicker. It's so you've got to sit it like under the TV or next. So
it's to like an NVIDIA Shield, basically.
I don't think it's quite that big. It's all plugged in, so I can't pull it up and show it to you. But yeah, it's like the size of your hand and a little thicker. Okay. And you plug in the power. It's like I think micro USB to USB with a little power brick, and that plugs into the AC, obviously. And then you have to have an actual HDMI cable, unlike the Fire TV stick, which doesn't need it because it plugs. It has the male, HDMI part as part of it. This, you need a HDMI cable, with both ends, which luckily I had an extra one. And so I've got it sitting on top of my set-top Blu-ray player underneath my 32-inch TV just to my right, and I've got it plugged in. I just set it up today. I haven't started downloading stuff. I haven't really gone through all the steps I need to really put it through its paces. But and I'm annoyed. Even the stupid cable is white. I could probably spend a few bucks and get a micro to regular USB cable. So I don't have to see that white out of the corner of my eye. Everything, all my electronics are black, almost, except for my AT&T fiber gateway. That thing is white. I've got that hidden over there out of my line of sight because I don't want to see white. To me, white is like Apple eye crap. I don't want anything white. And the tableau behind me is white, but I don't really look at that much. So, I want all my computers, desktops, peripherals, printers, you name it, monitors, TVs, microphone, camera, everything is black or gray. I don't do white. So
Learn to skin stuff.
What's that?
You skin things, like.
Oh, well, I don't know. Electronic devices that have heat, do you really want to cover them with stuff?
Well, as long as you put slices in for vents.
Okay.
As long as you put the skin on correctly, you're not really going to cover up any vents.
I think I'll spend $8 more and get myself a black cable just so I don't see that through the glass desk. But at least the device is gray. And here's the remote. You see the remote is gray. That's close enough to black for me. That it's not white. I could live with that.
I bet you don't have a bunch of Linux stickers all over your laptops either, do you?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's out, Doc.
That would.
I don't do bumper stickers on my car or on my computers. So what's nice about this thing?
How else do you let everyone know that you run Arch?
I don't run Arch. That's not me.
Nothing to say about this.
What's nice about this, the appeal of it is that it has a whopping 32 gigs of storage space, not 5 gigs. So I should have plenty of room.
That's what you're paying for.
Yeah. And that's why I paid, because I got my Fire TV 4K sticks for $25, right? This is, triple, or in my case, quadruple, because I was picky about the color, quadruple the price. So, but this should be my, path going forward. I've got a lot more space. I could, put all my apps on there. Should not have a problem. With storage space. The only hitch, I've got to put this through its paces. I did read the reviews because there's a lot of reviews on Amazon. I search for keywords like VPN and SmartTube, and it seems like if you go into developer mode, just like you do on Fire TV, they don't lock it down. You can install all those apps that I need. Like Surfshark, my VPN #1, SmartTube #2, TySonTube #3, Plex and Jellyfin. If those are not available, it goes back, right, as garbage, because I'm not obviously spending $100 on a lockdown device. I want something with space. I want something where I could use all those apps. Of course, time will tell. I do have to say, I am going to miss the Fire TV remote. #1, I got used to it after 7 years of using it daily. It's a little different. You could see the little disc up here. It's up higher on the device than the Fire TV one was down here. The Fire TV remote also had a play, a rewind, and a fast forward button in the middle, where this one forces you to use the disc for everything. And also the disc itself, it's very shallow. It doesn't have the same depression or indentation as the Fire TV one did. So to me, it's not as accurate by hand feel compared to the Fire TV. I'm sure over time, if I get stuck, using this long term, I'll get used to it, and then my new muscle memory will take over. But so at first use, I did find this to be a little clunky compared to the Fire TV remote. I don't know if you can get a third-party remote.
I was just about to say, I wonder if you can get something third-party.
We'll see. I'll see how
third-party remotes on Amazon for the Amazon devices. Mm-hmm. I've found those to be even better. So you never know.
Yeah, we'll see.
I I like picking up these universal pucks that work with either Alexa or Home Assistant, and then you just have to, tell them what device it is, and and you can use your phone as a remote, or you can use, Alexa as a remote, or Home
Right.
Assistant, or anything else. It's
Right.
awesome.
So yeah, we'll see how time will tell. I'll have to go, take some time between now and the next episode. I'm sure I'll install all my usual apps, make sure they all work, especially my VPN and SmartTube and TizenTube, which I can't live without. And yeah, then I'll be happy. This should last me the next few years. So yeah, we touched on this earlier, but this just for me is like the final battle in the decline of the Amazon ecosystem since 2019. When I had all these other devices, uh, they had me at one point. I was all in, and now over time, the Recast gone and the Fire TVs, you know, running out of space, and them switching to this Vega setup. Even I'm having storage space issues on I love my Fire HD8 tablet. The problem, and it's great. It fits perfectly in my hand. I use it as an ebook reader. Uh, the problem is it's also running out of storage space because I went and put the 4 large files on it that would allow me to put the Google Play Store on there, which you can do, but it kind of filled up the storage space. So, again, maybe a project for down the road. I think you have to physically go in there and do something, but I believe it's even possible to put some kind of alternate OS onto those Fire HD tablets. For now, I managed to clear enough space to continue using it as is, but
It's
pretty much
extremely
all the,
difficult and technical.
yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I read. But
Have you been like, okay, so like, I can speak for myself. The whole time I'm using these devices and I'm putting things like Jellyfin and Kodi on them for years, I've been using these devices, but the whole time in the back of my mind, it's been, I just know one day they're going to take this away. They're going to figure out a way to take this away because this device, the purpose of this device is to,
If it's too good to be
yeah,
true, it often is that kind of thing, isn't it? You think to yourself, I can do all this shit. Why is it they must not have realized that we could do all this stuff.
yeah.
When they realized, they've decided to take it away.
Because
It's
selling
such
the
a
device is not that is not a real source of income for them. It's getting you on their platform. It's getting you to uh, subscribe to their content. And that's really the purpose of these devices. And so I've always thought, yeah, this is just
it's
this
really
is
such a small community that uses these that I don't know if it'll ever, be a primary target to be gotten rid of, as it were.
well, you say that, but the new Fire Sticks are completely devoid of it. You could be forgiven for not knowing the difference
Mm.
other than that because you plug this thing in and the interface is exactly the same. And
right.
My worry is that they'll start trying to put this onto the older Fire Sticks as well. Because as I said, I bought one
Well,
thinking, well, at
I
least let me get one while they're still Android, and then afterwards I thought to myself, shit, what if they run an OTA or something that
my
completely?
my my concern wouldn't be that. My concern would be that they're just going to brick the old ones,
Hmm.
Okay.
force you to buy a new one.
I'll be interested to know how you get on with your Google TV streamer,
Yeah.
Jim, because as I said, I very nearly bought one, and the main reason I stopped was I just thought it it seemed too expensive for what it was. If I was going to go that far, why don't I just get an Android TV box, no name, kind of Chinese? Then at least I'm going to have a lot more. Because it's surprising actually, because I think it's only got like Wi-Fi 5. I think there's a couple of like weird things that you would think it would be better at than it is.
It does
Um,
have an Ethernet port if you want to connect directly,
mm,
which the Fire TV
which I
doesn't
do.
Max
know.
4K does not have. So I haven't done that yet. I just set it up with Wi-Fi,
Hmm.
but I thought that was neat. a good option for it. Yeah. So I'll be obviously doing a lot of installation. Like I said, if it doesn't work with SmartTube, with Surfshark, SmartTube, Tizen Tube, Plex, and Jellyfin, it goes back. But from what I read, other people says it did. You probably just have to go into developer mode and allow that, and you're set. So if I get another 7 years on this device, like I did with the Fire TV, that gives me a bunch of space in the future. And by the way, somebody referenced it earlier. Yes, I also have this other device on another input, this HTPC. So, I've got this as a backup, for other purposes. So I'm invested enough that, I've got space, I've got options, and I will not have to look at any ads that I don't want to, and they're not going to make me. So, yeah, will be fun to play with going forward. All right. So now I'm going to talk about something else. I've been using an app called TV Time. It is an Android app. There's also a they have a website that goes with it. It is one of the most popular apps that people use to track their TV show watching of all their episodes and their series, right? Many people use another completely unrelated site called Letterbox to track all the movies that they watch. I use Goodreads to track all the books that I watch. There's other options, but for TV, I've been using TV Time for a few years. Now, there's other people that have been using it for 10 or 15 years, and apparently they have millions of users. Well, the other day they announced that they were in 2 weeks, July, what's the date? July 15th. So not that long now. It's gone. The app's going away. Your account, everything is poof. The company pivoted. They're not doing it anymore. Who knows? They weren't able to monetize it. It was a great app. If you're a TV junkie, you're an organized person, or you like to track every episode, every show you watch. They had a beautiful interface. It was very intuitive, easy to use. It was a little clunky. Sometimes the network would seem like it would bog down, but maybe that was a sign of the trouble to come. In any case, they luckily they did offer you to export your data, because there are numerous other apps and websites that do something similar, right? And I managed to export my data pretty easily. And then I had to start looking, because on Reddit there was a big thread where a lot of people, and not just Americans, people all over the world were complaining. Oh, they've been using it for years. Some people had hundreds or 1,000 plus, shows tracked, with all their everything marked as watched, and it was a big deal. So everybody was scrambling to figure out what to do. Number one, you had to export your data. And number two, you had to find another place to go. What made TV Time really great, besides the user interface, and the synopses were very good. It used a database that was very complete, and people also could leave comments. I didn't comment myself, but you could leave comments and people would chit chat about the different episodes and what they thought were interesting about it. There was a whole community built up there. So, this is the kind of thing where I could spend hours now, because I'm forced now to find another alternative, right? First, I exported my data directly from TV Time. And then the number one option people were talking about is called Refract, Refract. It's an Android app. And the people, and they have a very active Discord, which I joined, and they had a massive, and I mean truly massive, influx of people. They had some 3,000 users before, and because they were sort of the place that many people considered the next best option or the go-to, that they kind of designed their site, inspired by TV Time. Last I checked, they went to some 70,000 users, up from 3,000. And there is actually, unlike the several other sites I tried, there is actually a long queue to import your data. The developers there have been working like overtime, trying to take advantage of this opportunity and import thousands of people's data, because nobody wants to sit down and start checking off hundreds of shows and what they watch. Luckily for me, I've only been using it a couple years. I had 50 shows tracked. Some of them are over. Some of them, because it's summer, I'm all caught up. So it would be, if I had to, if my data import didn't work or got borked, I could just recreate it manually in like 15 or 20 minutes tops. But if you're one of those other people that went, and especially if you went back and put like all the shows you watched from your childhood and all that, like you might have 1,000 shows. It would be a major hassle. So, I'm not in the show notes. I listed all the different ones I've tried so far. I'm not going to read everything in interest of time, but suffice to say that I'm in the queue for Refract now. It's been a few days. I think I was in the high hundreds last I checked, up from thousands, and over time they actually separated their thousands of people trying to import their data into multiple queues. I'm in like the little queue for the people that don't have big data. There's other people that it may take them a week or more to import everything. So we'll see if that turns out to be my new home. But in the meantime, I did try a couple of others that were easy to import. There's some other sites. There's numerous ones, right? I tried one called Media-Tracker. It's a website and a web app in Android. The import went pretty well. It wasn't perfect, but that developer has a nice little site to track media of different types, and he's very
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things that I've noticed that a lot of people who use Letterboxd for and Goodreads for is to actually write reviews, of the things that they are, that they've watched. It sounds like a lot of hassle to be doing reviews for each of the TV episodes that you might be watching and stuff.
Yeah. I don't review anything.
Okay.
I like to just track. Like I have a list in my notes of stuff I'm about to watch, and then I put it at the bottom of that text list when I finish watching it. So that way, even if all these apps went away, I at least have my raw data. But after I watch it, there's just something very satisfying about going into that app and hitting the little check mark that goes bing, and it shows you where you're at. It's just I don't know, it's like a dopamine hit like I get when I track that. Plus I do like to see
it's like when you write checklists and then you kind of tick them and then you kind of go, yeah, I achieved something, even though all that was just putting the bins out.
Right. I do like to read other people's comments. I never, you're right. I never felt like I needed to comment, because then I feel like almost like I'm working. I should be getting paid for writing, material. I mean, but yes, I do enjoy reading. Yeah, plus they have, it's all hyperlinked, the list of the actors and the producers or whatever, all that stuff, all that data, the cover, the poster art, it's all there. So, each one of these different apps, and this is the kind of thing where I know myself. I could get lost for hours trying to compare. Oh, this one, the user interface is nicer, and this one, the poster art's better, and this one, I hate the fact that there's no comments. And like you could compare and contrast all or this one, it doesn't have this one show. Like let's say I watch some international show from England or whatever. Maybe the data is not as good as the American show. Like I could drive myself crazy trying to find the perfect replacement among a half a dozen or more, and there's way more than that actually. But I tried Media-Tracker. I tried something called Next Episode, which is a very like long time kind of dated looking site that has a similar functionality. I tried something called Tracked, TRAKT.TV, and then in a front end called Showly. There's another one called Series Guide. There's a bunch that are iPhone only. There's no shortage of options. But the thing is, you got to find one that imports your data, imports it correctly, has a similar database, has similar features. Doesn't have maybe it doesn't have a paid mode that puts some of those features behind a paywall. So, you could very easily spend some time trying to decide which one you're going to use. So right now I'm waiting. I'm in the queue for the first one I mentioned, Refract. That's the one based on everybody else's comments. I think that's the one that's probably going to be what I stick with, but I did try a few others. You can go into the show notes and read my more detailed notes if this topic fascinates you further. But yes, this is something I needed to get solved, and we'll see. We'll see how Refract works once my import goes through.
Cool. All right then.
And then lastly, yes,
go
I'll
ahead, sorry.
mention media because Majid
do.
did it, and I appreciate the fact that you did. I don't care what our former host says. We can talk about media here. The Studio, starring Seth Rogen. It is an Apple TV show.
Yeah.
A satirical cringe comedy with Seth Rogen as Matt Remick, a newly appointed head of a floundering film production company, Continental Studios, trying to stay relevant in this day and age of IP-driven schlock and streaming services. It kind of reminds me of HBO's Entourage from the early 2000s, if you remember that show. A lot of Hollywood cameos and inside jokes.
So it turns out that I actually get Apple TV Plus for free with my bank account. I have no idea that this was a thing, but apparently it is, even though I don't have any Apple devices or anything like that. But thankfully, they do now make an Android app. So I've been catching up on the Apple TV stuff, and this is on my list. It does seem very cringe. Do you know what I
Watch
mean?
See.
Yeah. You what?
Watch the television show See. SEE.
Oh, okay. SEE.
It's got
Okay.
Jason
Momoa. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so so it's on my list of things to see, but it did look very cringe, and I thought because there is a certain point where it becomes a bit too cringy. I don't know.
They didn't exceed that point. I thought it was very well acted. I thought it was interesting.
Cool. But I mean, I haven't seen the whole season yet. So I've still got to go.
I've watched 8 out of 10 episodes, and
okay.
I enjoyed it. So I'll definitely watch the next season when it came. So those are my wanderings. I know we did a long show today, but I thought it was interesting in any case.
Cool. All right then. So we will go on to check this out. And on check this out, I've put up something. So something called Minor. However it's spelled, I don't know. Ubuntu is adding AI features this year, and founder Mark Shuttleworth hopes the distro will become the OS for the agentic era. Boring. But big ambitions start with small seeds, apparently. And so on OMG Ubuntu, they're talking about Minor. So Minor is basically a app. It's a lightweight speech to text application. It's powered by AI. You press a hotkey, you chat at your computer, and then like magic, the words appear on your screen. And apparently it would work in any text field that you can talk into. So there's a link in the show notes for to the OMG Ubuntu article, which goes into it a bit more. It's actually quite funny, actually, the way that Joey's done it. It can do voice commands, desktop control, but sorry, it can't do voice commands, desktop control, or wake words at the moment. But that is something they want to look into. First, it's an opt out. You don't have to use it. You can just put sudo snap remove all the AI apparently, and that will get rid of it. Anyway, so I thought Bill would quite like that actually, since he does a lot of voice to texting. Although, would you do voice to texting on your computer when you've got a keyboard in front of you? I mean, it's actually probably quicker to just type for some people. But anyway, that's in there. Check this out. Unfortunately, there's no vibrations from the ether. Please try and get in contact with us. Thank you for listening to this episode of mintCast. If you see something that you think we should be talking about, tell us. Chat us with us on Matrix. That's where all the cool kids are these days. Or you can send us an email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Next Saturday, July 11th, will be the roundtable episode at 2 p.m. US Central Time. So you can convert that to your time zone in the show notes. Everyone is welcome to join us at mintcast.org/roundtable. Just click the link. No software required. Everyone's welcome to take part, camera on or not. And you can come join in on the live chat on YouTube. The week after is Sunday, July 19th, will be the News Wanderings episode at 2 p.m. US Central Time. And you can come join us in the live chat on YouTube. There's also other podcasts in the Linux Syndicate family, of which mintCast is one. So you can join myself, Bill, Eric, and Charlie on Linux OTC, which is an unscripted and unpredictable conversation about all things Linux. and you can join myself and Dale on Distro Hoppers Digest to hear about our experiences and challenges with trying out different distros. Okay, then. Take it away, Joe.
Well, I'm on Matrix as J.E. Boylan. You can catch me on a couple other podcasts. I'm on the Linux Link Tech Show, also, which is tlts.org, and I'm also on Linux Lugcast, linuxlugcast.com. Or you can send me an email directly, jb@mintcast.org, or buy me a coffee on Ko-fi. Link in the show notes. Bill?
Yeah, you can email me. I'm bill@midcast.org. I'm at WCHauser3 on fostodon.org. This has been rewritten and it's screwing me up.
Yeah, same.
Well, it doesn't say on here, but I'm WCHauser3 at matrix.org on Matrix. He's got it Bill H on Matrix. That's not true. Bill H is my handle on Discord, but we have been really moving away from Discord. I've still got it installed. I'll probably never be able to get rid of it, to be honest with you. But
I mean, to be fair, it is where me and Leo have been having lots of football chatter.
yeah,
So that's the only reason I've kept it so far.
it's not going anywhere. But as far as relying on it, we've moved away from it. But yeah, that's where you can catch me, Majid.
Yeah, you can catch me on Matrix at Atypical Doctor, or one word. You can email me at drmajid@mincast.org. And of course, I have the Atypical Doctor podcast myself. Eric couldn't be on the show today. He's on ESA 1975 on Matrix, and you can email him at eric@mincast.org. Charles, I'm not sure if Charles is Mr. PDX on Matrix, but that's what we've got written down. And you can also email him at charles@mincast.org. Jim?
Yeah, I went by Canoe to Linux on Discord. I'm something else on Matrix, which is hard to spell, but it's Bocophilia at whatever it is on Matrix. Jim@mintcast.org is the email. And I also do a podcast. I haven't done it recently, but there's a few episodes that I think are interesting as the Linux Shortcut on YouTube.
And so before we leave, we want to make sure we acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Bill for our audio editing, hosting, maintenance, our Nextcloud, our web servers, and general tech stuff. Londoner for all his contributions from the news to the time sinks. And of course, the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love to talk about. Thanks, Clem and team.
And wrap.
And that's a wrap. And England. Sorry. I had to get a football thing in somewhere.
Thanks, everybody in the live stream. We will see you next time. Don't forget to be there.